Chapter 38:15. If she gave up on this idea, she reckoned that Jiang Fa Tian would never ask her to cook again. Ning Shu, that's great. Like I said, jerky is simple and delicious. But seeing the huge, bloody giant bird in the forest, Ning Shu's heart still felt a little stifled. Would she have to make jerky for the rest of her life? Make jerky for life. The two of them started to move. Fa Tian's hands were busy. He glanced at Ning Shu and said, "Don't look for things that can change your physique." Ning Shu lowered her head and cured the meat. Without looking up, she said, "We definitely have to look for places. If we don't look for imperial granules, we can look for other things." Ning Shu felt that she couldn't afford to lose. Fortunately, she worked hard to get to where she was now. According to her own unlucky luck, she didn't even have the courage to gamble on things like imperial granules. Ning Shu thought about it and decided to give up on imperial granules. Besides, imperial granules were so hard to find. Rather than looking for something that was especially unstable and unknown, looking for something else would be more rewarding. Fa Tian frowned and then relaxed. Let her go find it. If the peerless martial arts could really change her physique. Maybe the peerless martial arts could change her physique, but she still hadn't found anything. Anyway, he had never heard of such things. Void creatures didn't need these things at all. Without demand, there would be no production. But he was very uncertain whether the peerless martial arts were what he thought. If it wasn't, then wouldn't he have made a big mistake? He even told Ning Shu not to look for things. Be prepared for both ends and grab them with both hands. If it really was, then there would be two surprises. If he said it now, there might not be any surprises when the time came. Instead, he would be disappointed and annoyed. It would cause Ning Shu to have opinions about himself. Because this wasn't a 100% certainty after all. Ning Shu asked back, "Why not? My physique is still a shortcoming." Fa Tian, what I mean is, this kind of thing isn't easy to find. Maybe you can't find it at all. Ning Shu said, "Maybe." Her expression was mischievous. "We have to have hope." Fa Tian nodded. "You're right. We have to have hope. If we have hope, there will be miracles." Ning Shu turned to look at him. "I'm listening. Why do you sound like you're mocking me?" Fa Tian replied calmly, "No, you're thinking too much." Sure enough, he thought too much. Ning Shu didn't care anymore and gave Fa Tian a lot of jerky. "You can make some friends in the cub nursery. You can give out some jerky. The first step to making friends is to share." Now, the little mouse was pinched to death by senior uncle. Fa Tian was all alone now. He looked really pitiful at such a young age in the cub nursery. Fa Tian was non-committal towards Ning Shu, teaching him as if he was teaching kindergarten children. There was a kind of loneliness that made others think he was lonely. He wasn't lonely at all. It was childish, superficial, and ridiculous to let him roll on the ground with those cubs. Ning Shu didn't know that Fa Tian was constantly complaining in his heart. He chattered to Tian and asked, "Are you still going to the Holy Land?" Tian, "Of course. Although that old man is a bit long-winded, he has a good heart." Ning Shu, "Is that old man your teacher?" Fa Tian shook his head. "No, that old man is a gatekeeper. There are no teachers in the cub nursery." Ning Shu's mouth twitched. "No teachers? No teachers? Then what do you usually do?" He never expected that the cub nursery didn't have teachers. He always thought that the cub nursery was a kindergarten. Wouldn't that be like locking those cubs up together? Tian said, "You can do whatever you want. You can sleep, read, or play. It's all up to you." Ning Shu was speechless. What kind of immortal school life is this? Ning Shu couldn't help but worry about Meng Qi's mother. He said, "In that case, do you want to change to another place?" Fa Tian looked at Ning Shu inexplicably and said, "As long as the creatures in the void successfully grow up, they will always have power. Some races become powerful just by sleeping." Ning Shu was speechless. "My whole person becomes lemon essence is how to return a responsibility. I don't want to hear it." Ning Shu asked expressionlessly, "Then what do you do in school?" "Are you sleeping every day?" Tian said, "I follow the old man every day. The branches I gave you were all taken from him." Ning Shu was speechless. The amount of information was a bit too much. Tian looked at Ning Shu's shocked expression and nodded to confirm her thoughts. Yes, it's as you think. That old man is a sacred tree and has lived for a long time. It's said that when Tai Shu was still wearing diapers, that old man was already very old. Ning Shu smiled. Oh my God, how long have these things lived? She thought of Tai Shu rolling in the mud pit, and then an old man with a long white beard looking at these children with a gratified and kind face. This scene was really indescribable. Ning Shu asked, then doesn't he have a lot of sacred runes on his body? Tian nodded. His whole body is covered with runes. The big tree where the children are is his body. The white beard is just a spiritual body. Ning Shu slapped her forehead. Indeed, the creatures in the void were very powerful and incredible. Then doesn't that mean he has a lot of treasures that no one covets? He has a body full of sacred runes. Can't he use them himself? He has these sacred runes for nothing more than protection, just like the thorns of a rose. In the end, someone comprehended this kind of sacred rune and tapped into its power. Ning Shu blinked and fell silent. Doesn't that sacred ground exist because of the sacred tree? That sacred ground was filled with sacred runes, and they were used in every aspect of life. Tian nodded. Maybe. Ning Shu roughly realized that the children's nursery didn't really need a teacher. With an old man guarding the door, one could actually comprehend the sacred runes. Tian didn't want to discuss whether he was lonely or not, and changed the topic. Bring me to the place where the little mouse died. I want to take a look. Ning Shu asked, do you think the little mouse didn't die? Tian shook his head. I don't know. I'll go take a look. No matter how stupid he was, no matter how brave he was to die, he should have left a way out. Maybe he left a way out. That Li when he mentioned didn't care about him. Since Tian had such thoughts, Ning Shu naturally wouldn't object. He brought Tian to the place where the incident happened. He hadn't been there before, but when he walked closer he realized that the place where the little mouse died was covered with specks of light. It was very fine. Ning Shu, it was really crushed into pieces. Tian frowned and reached out to touch the light. This light was very weak. It dimmed and extinguished with a touch. Tian said to Ning Shu, let's collect this. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3817. Tian couldn't stand Ning Shu making a fuss over nothing. What's wrong with this hobby? Can I make porcelain dolls? Ning Shu nodded. You can. Tian, can I carve divine patterns on the porcelain dolls? Ning Shu nodded. You can. Tian, after a void creature dies, it turns into dust. It's just ordinary dust. It's not even a corpse. Can I collect it? Ning Shu nodded. You can. Tian, then it's fine. Ning Shu, eh? There was no problem at all. It seemed like there was no problem, or there was no problem at all. Was she making a mountain out of a molehill? Who cares? Ning Shu also didn't think it was a big deal. Tian's hobby of collecting was like a child who liked to collect strangely shaped stones or shells. Ning Shu completely convinced himself. The two of them began to concentrate on collecting the glowing dust. Although the little mouse didn't look big, there was quite a lot of dust. Void creatures weren't small. The little mouse looked like a normal mouse, but it was actually very big. It took several bottles to collect all the glowing dust. When the dust gathered together, the luster became even brighter. It could really be used as a light bulb. Unfortunately, as time passed, the luster would dim and turn into ordinary dust, becoming a part of the void. Ning Shu asked Tian, if the little mouse dies, does that mean this race will disappear? The little mouse was the king of this race. As long as the little mouse existed, this race could infinitely divide. If the little mouse died, this race would be completely extinct. The little mouse was probably similar to a scavenger in the void. It gnawed on all kinds of things. It was annoying, but it was also necessary to exist. Would a new little mouse be born? Tian tilted his head and thought for a moment before saying, I'm not sure. As for whether or not a new one will be born, I don't know. Perhaps as long as the dust remained lit, the void would not be born. When the little mouse completely turned into dust, the void would probably give birth to another race with the same function. They might even be completely different from the little mouse. Their appearance and reproduction methods might be different. The void had a powerful dispatching function. Ning Shu looked at the little mouse's expression and knew that the little mouse's chances of survival were slim. At this time, Ning Shu couldn't help but want to call him an idiot. Needless to say, the little mouse was definitely fighting for a chance for Li Wen to escape. In the face of the Grand Uncle, even if the Grand Uncle was now holding Shishi's heart at every turn and fainting like Mary Sue at every turn, he really faced him. His heart must be filled with fear, and his desire to fight was not that strong. He just wanted to turn around and run. Anyway, Ning Shu felt that he couldn't beat the Grand Uncle for the time being. He just didn't know if he could exhaust the Grand Uncle to death. 1,000-year tortoise, a 10,000-year tortoise, let's see who can live longer. Li Wen ran away, and now the little mouse had become a corpse. Ning Shu could only sigh about the matter between these two people and didn't think about anything else. These two people were willing to fight and the other was willing to be beaten. Outsiders would at most sigh. Ning Shu gave the bottle to Fa Tian, and Fa Tian put it away. He also specially emptied a meson space to store this thing. Ning Shu squinted at Fa Tian. The child had grown up and had his own secrets. He wouldn't tell Ning Shu. Ning Shu felt very disappointed. He didn't know if the creatures of the void fell in love or needed to reproduce. His identity as an old mother would be a bit awkward in the future. Sigh. Ning Shu thought very far. Although Fa Tian still looked like a child now, if there was enough energy, he would definitely grow up very quickly. What would Fa Tian's future girlfriend look like? What kind of wife would he find? Sure enough, an old mother had too many things to worry about. Fa Tian counted the bottles in the meson space with his mental power and smiled. Very good, there were already 50 bottles. Ning Shu. Forget it, he was still a child playing with mud. He didn't need to worry about the future. Ning Shu planned to find some Li Wen. He came to the location of the previously marked space node and found that it was empty. There were no enchantments, black holes, or entrances. Obviously, the mechanical city was gone, and Li Wen was nowhere to be found. Obviously, Li Wen couldn't be still in the same place. Li Wen disappeared again. The void was so big, and it was uncertain if they could meet again. What was different this time was that there was no little mouse looking for Li Wen every day and thinking about Li Wen all the time. Ning Shu felt a little sad. My brother is indeed a man of iron. He is an emperor after all. He is very firm and self-centered. It's hard to change him. It seems that no one can walk into his heart. Who cares? Ning Shu didn't plan to walk into Li Wen's heart anyway. The two of them were friends of gentlemen. They didn't interfere with each other much. Their relationship was still passable. My brother probably went to find a new opportunity and a new direction to move forward. The divine runes were a direction, but only the sacred land had them. The location of the sacred land was not fixed. If Li Wen wanted to study the divine runes, Little Mouse could provide it. After all, the little mouse could enter the sacred land with Fa Tian. It might be able to get some branches. The divine runes on these branches were enough for study, but Li Wen didn't protect the little mouse. Li Wen gave people the feeling that he was unfathomable. No one knew what trump cards he had, but he always gave people the feeling that he could be relied on. He looked like he had victory in his hands at all times. How could an emperor panic? Ning Shu felt that Li Wen was the kind of person who wouldn't panic even if he was about to die. He had a better mentality. If Li Wen was willing to help, the little mouse might have a chance to survive. Back then, the little mouse's clan had all been destroyed. Li Wen had never appeared. Without the little mouse, Li Wen had no source of divine runes. If Li Wen wanted to study it, he would have to find a divine tree in the vast void. Where could he find such a thing? It was probably the same as the imperial granary. However, the void was so big and there were so many species. A big world meant that there were more hopes and opportunities. Perhaps Li Wen had some good fortune. He stopped thinking about Li Wen. He could see that Li Wen was really cold. He had to be more careful when dealing with Li Wen in the future. Ning Shu said to Van, "Let's go back. Do you have enough dust to make a porcelain doll?" Ning Shu asked. Fa Tian said, "Not enough. I want to make a big porcelain doll." Ning Shu felt a little strange, but he still encouraged him. Good luck. He suddenly thought of Uncle Zhang. Uncle Zhang's peerless love for the doll. Ning Shu looked at Fa Tian from the corner of his eyes. Fa Tian? To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3818. The biggest misconception of a bootlicker was that he could rely on his sincerity and passion to take advantage of the situation. Maybe he would succeed, but in reality he would not succeed. Little Mouse was a bloody example. Yes, he had to remember that those who could not be bootlickers would not be able to be bootlickers in this lifetime. After collecting Little Mouse's ashes, Fa Tian returned to the system space and took out a bottle. The bottle was filled with water with some dirt and dust. It was not clean water. Fa Tian poured Little Mouse's ashes on the coffee table, then poured water and mixed it evenly. He slowly kneaded it as if he was kneading flour. Gradually, a small ball of mud was kneaded out. Ning Shu sat next to Fa Tian and looked at him. He asked, "With so many techniques, you must have been playing in the mud at the cub's shelter." Fa Tian looked at Ning Shu from the corner of his eyes. "Why do you think I played in the mud too much instead of going to the restaurant to help?" Ning Shu looked guilty. "Sai, that's how I talk. Seeing how skilled you are, my first impression is that you played in the mud too late." "You gave me that impression. You can't blame me." Fa Tian, "I don't blame you. I played in the mud to begin with." Ning Shu, this kid. "So, rolling in the mud at the cub's shelter was also part of you, right?" Fa Tian looked serious. He was constantly thinking in his mind and his hands were constantly forming shapes. Ning Shu did not dare to disturb him. He stared straight at Fa Tian's hands. Both of his hands were busy. Not long after, a prototype appeared. It was a mouse. It was just a rough outline. The rest had not been formed yet. The framework was out. Next was the more detailed part. When Fa Tian was empty-handed, Ning Shu asked, "Do you want to color it?" Little Rat's fur was silver. Maybe he should find some silver paint for it. Fa Tian shook his head. "No need. It's fine as long as you're done." Ning Shu watched in silence, looking at the rough outline. Under Fa Tian's skillful hands, the fine hairs were revealed. Up close, the fine hairs looked like the outline of a person's hair. But from afar it was quite realistic. Next was the eyes. The eyes determined whether a painting had a soul or not. It was the finishing touch. Fa Tian stopped. It was obvious that he was having a hard time adding the finishing touch. Or perhaps, he didn't manage to draw out the charm of Little Mouse. Ning Shu suggested, "The Little Mouse is an out-and-out bootlicker in front of Li Wen, but at the same time has the arrogance of a void creature. Try attacking from this angle." The Little Mouse was a creature of the void, so it felt inferior when facing Li Wen. This was probably love. In the outside world it could do anything, but in front of Li Wen, it felt like it wasn't even worth a fart. Fa Tian tilted his head and looked at the clay sculpture. He frowned but still couldn't do it. He said, "Let me think about it. I can't do it for now." Ning Shu said, "I think I can push Uncle, Sang Liang, and the rest to the ground and make them call me Daddy." Fa Tian immediately showed a worried and pitiful expression. "What's wrong with you?" Ning Shu immediately said, "Little Mouse has this expression. Li Wen is Little Mouse's greatest obsession. Think about if there's anything you can't get even if you beg for it. Try again." Although it was to find inspiration for Fa Tian's expression still successfully made Ning Shu unhappy. The gap was too big, causing Fa Tian to not be able to see through himself at all. It wasn't that Ning Shu wanted to push Sang Liang and the rest to the ground, but he wanted to use them as a benchmark to measure his strength. When he reached their level of strength, he would be able to stroll around in the void. At least he would have the strength to protect himself. In the future, if something really happened to the Sea of Law and the organization disbanded, he would have the strength to protect himself. "Sai, I could have been very happy, but it's all because of my weak strength." Fa Tian fell into deep thought and quickly started to carve the eyes. In a moment, the entire clay sculpture looked much more vivid. The little mouse stood with its two front paws on its waist and its chin slightly raised. It looked extremely arrogant. How creative, using little mouse's ashes to sculpt a little mouse. Don't you think it's a little weird to put it in the system space? The little mouse took out a pen and started to write and draw on the clay sculpture. These lines were complicated and irregular. After successfully drawing a line, the lines would flicker slightly and merge into the clay sculpture before disappearing. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. This was a divine rune. Higion had already comprehended a divine rune? Wow, my comrade is so powerful. Ning Shu suddenly had a feeling of winning while lying down. My comrade can do anything. He has 81 types of skills and 49 types of methods to kill the enemy. For me to be able to meet such a comrade, it is a blessing from the heavens. Who would have such luck? Seems like Fation learned a lot from the cub and did not idle around. Strong and hardworking, my comrade is awesome. Fation carved divine runes all over the clay sculpture. The divine runes were hidden in the sculpture, causing the clay sculpture to be different. Previously, the clay sculpture looked like it would break with a touch, but now, with the support of the divine runes, the clay sculpture emitted a luster like iron. And I really want to kidnap the divine tree. Fation took out something the size of a grain of rice and pressed it into the clay sculpture's stomach. After it was done, Fation exhaled and casually placed the clay sculpture on the bookshelf. It seemed like he was not going to care about it anymore. Ning Shu asked, "That's it?" Fation nodded. "Yes, it's time now." Who knows when it will wake up? Ning Shu. He was shocked. Although Ning Shu had some guesses, he still found it unbelievable that Fation would say it out loud. Ning Shu said in shock, "Is this a reversal of life and death, a resurrection from the dead?" Fation shook his head. "No, the little mouse that wakes up has a blank memory. He is still him, but also not him." Ning Shu asked, "Is it the same as when a normal living being is reborn? Or did I destroy it and the will of death gave birth to a new Ning Shu?" Fation nodded. "It's the same idea, but I implanted the memory crystal into his body. If he wakes up, he will remember some things." Fation also hid one thing, which was that the memory crystal contained his memories of the little mouse. Li Wen's existence in it was completely erased. When the little mouse woke up, he would not remember Li Wen at all. He might find him familiar, but he would definitely not know him. Kitian, little mouse is an idiot. A bootlicker will die a horrible death. Ning Shu still found it unbelievable. He stared at Fation's hand and excitedly grabbed Fation's hand. He said, "My Fanon, remember to collect my body in the future. Look at me now and remember my face in your heart." Chapter 38:19. Fation stared at Ning Shu's face expressionlessly. Ning Shu asked, "Can you remember my face?" Fation couldn't even carve out little mouse's eyes. If Fation could remember her expression, she wouldn't have to worry that Fation wouldn't remember when he pinched her. Fation asked, "Do you have ashes?" If her soul was destroyed, she would be completely annihilated. Where would he find ashes? How would he pinch without ashes? Ning Shu was speechless. This was a big problem. She didn't have ashes. Oh, she forgot that she still had the will of death. Even if her consciousness was destroyed, she would still be born. However, the newly born Ning Shu didn't remember her past at all. Her personality would be different because of her different experiences. Ning Shu changed the topic. "What kind of rune are you using? It's so powerful that it can even bring the dead back to life." "It's a type of rejuvenation rune. Withered trees can be rejuvenated, old trees can sprout, and iron trees can bloom. They all refer to the strong vitality of trees. The god tree also has this talent. The rejuvenation rune can increase this effect," Fation explained. Ning Shu nodded and then asked, "Can it be done with this kind of rune?" Although there was a saying that withered trees can be rejuvenated, Ning Shu didn't think that this kind of rune would be able to wake little mouse up. The chances were small, but looking at Fation, it seemed like there was a high chance that little mouse could wake up. Fation was silent for a moment. "Actually, I'm also experimenting. I'm experimenting with something." If he succeeded, Little Mouse would wake up. At the same time, his suspicions would be confirmed. This would be beneficial to Ning Shu. The water used to knead the mud was actually collected by Fation in the Ultimate Martial Arts Manual. It was impossible to rely on the Rejuvenation Rune. Compared to the qualitative change of the Ultimate Martial Arts Manual, it was better to wait for Little Mouse to wake up. When the Little Mouse wakes up, it will be confirmed. Speaking of which, the Little Mouse was lucky. Fation wanted to verify his own conjecture, which was why he wasted his energy. Otherwise, even if there was such a method, Fation would have no other way. The Sea of Law no longer had any energy, so the water and mud were useless. It was not that he had to use the power of the Sea of Law, but he needed the power of the Void Source. This kind of origin energy could give birth to planes and living beings. How could it not solve the Little Mouse's problem? Ning Shu felt that Fation had grown up, and the most direct impression he had was that he did things mysteriously and had a lot of secrets. Since he didn't want to talk about it, Ning Shu couldn't be bothered to ask. Since he didn't want to talk about it, he naturally had his reasons. If he didn't talk about it even if he asked, everyone would feel awkward and it would hurt their relationship. Moreover, Ning Shu believed in Fation. After all, she was not worthy of Fation's schemes. Ning Shu asked Fation for advice. How do you comprehend the divine patterns? Those divine patterns were like the patterns on the roots of a tree, without any pattern. It was more difficult to remember a divine pattern without any pattern. Also, after looking at the divine patterns for a long time, one's eyes would light up and one would not even be able to see the divine patterns clearly. After a moment of absent-mindedness, he forgot what he saw. Thus, up until now, Ning Shu had yet to comprehend a divine inscription. Even if it was a short, weak divine inscription. Tian, close your eyes and touch it, remember it with your heart. Don't look with your eyes, or use your mental energy to scan it. In short, don't comprehend it with your eyes. It was so simple, Ning Shu did not think of it immediately. Tian, when you draw the divine patterns, you actually use your hands, not your eyes. Use your hands to touch it and remember it with your heart. When you draw, whether you have a strong power depends on the power you give the divine pattern. The stronger the power given, the more powerful the divine pattern would be. Ning Shu. He understood the theory, but why was it so difficult to do it? Eyes. It's just a pattern, very simple. Brain. Yes, I seem to have remembered it. Hands. Ning Shu was in such a state now. He took out a branch, closed his eyes, and touched it slowly, feeling it bit by bit. After a while, Ning Shu opened his eyes, silent. Fation asked, "Did you comprehend anything?" Ning Shu, "No, I didn't even get the pattern." The branch was so rough that he could not feel the pattern on the bark. This was just the pattern on the branch. If it was the pattern on the trunk and the bark, it would be even more impossible to feel it. Fation, take it slow. Feel it 100 times and you will feel something different. If 100 times doesn't work, try 1,000 times. If 1,000 times doesn't work, try 10,000 times. If 10,000 times still doesn't work, keep touching until you are very familiar with this branch. Maybe you will be able to draw the pattern on it. Fation gave Ning Shu a rather stupid method. Although it seemed stupid, it was actually a more reliable method. Ning Shu asked, "Is there any pattern?" He did not believe that the divine pattern would grow randomly. If there was a next life, he would choose to be a tree. Fation, of course there is a pattern. When you have accumulated enough divine patterns, you will be able to understand the pattern. You have not come into contact with many divine patterns now. Even if I tell you the pattern, you will not be able to understand it. These patterns are the secrets of heaven and earth. It's just that the tree of God has revealed these secrets. Ning Shu, so, am I going to start the practice of overflowing with questions? But it's good to have a direction to work towards. I'm just afraid that I won't be able to find a direction to work towards. Ning Shu said, I will go with you to the cub nursery. Fation, haven't you already been there? Why do you still want to go? I advise you to give up. That kind of scene was like a pig sneaking into a human school. Her strength was not enough to get rid of the rejection brought about by this talent class. Ning Shu, is your cub nursery really open to all? As long as you are humble enough to learn, you can get in. Tian, you want to get close to the old man from the Tree of God. That old man doesn't seem to have a temper, but he is actually very sensitive to people's hearts. Once you get close, he will know what you want. Generally speaking, he prefers creatures with purer minds, such as me. Ning Shu punched Fa Tian's head. This guy, while belittling others, he also endlessly praised himself. Thinking about it, the Tree of God probably liked Fa Tian. Otherwise, Fa Tian would not have been able to get these branches back. Although there were very few divine patterns on the branches, they were still a part of the Tree of God. If someone broke them, it would definitely hurt. It was like how a person's heart would hurt to death if their hair, which was neither painful nor itchy, fell off. Fa Tian was extremely talented. As a teacher, he would definitely like a child who was good in both character and learning. Ning Shu, fine, fine, fine. You are the purest. My heart is the dirtiest. Ning Shu did not feel that Fa Tian was pure and innocent. As his strength increased with age, he felt that Fa Tian had become more cunning and black-bellied. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3820. Fadian tiptoed and picked up the square peerless martial art book from the bookshelf. He handed it to Ning Shu and said, "Pick this up. Don't lose it." Ning Shu said indifferently, "I won't lose it. Half of my soul is tied to this book. I won't lose it." Fa Tian looked at Ning Shu stubbornly and handed the book to Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked at Fa Tian helplessly. He could only take the book and stuff it into his soul. Speaking of which, this book was also a part of his body. It was quite amazing to stuff a foreign object into his soul without any discomfort. Fa Tian saw that Ning Shu had put it away and nodded. "Don't leave this thing alone in the future. It's a good thing anyway. After eating so many things, it's bound to be extraordinary. Don't give it to others even if they ask you." Ning Shu was speechless. "This is mine. Why would I give it to others? Don't worry, I still have this thought." The book had been with her until now. How could she give it to others? Last time, Tai Shu and the others wanted to throw the book into the sea of law for a weak chance of survival. She resisted the pressure and didn't hand it over. How could she give it to a random person who asked her for it? Tian said, "It's good that you know." He thought about it and said, "Then I'll go to the Holy Land. Be careful alone." Ning Shu waved his hand. "Go. By the way, what is the old man in your cub house like? You can bring him something he likes." In any case, he got some branches from him. He had to return the favor. Heaven Punisher, all right, can you please give up on that idea? Ning Shu slapped Fa Tian's head. "I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it for you. You should respect the old and love the young. Give the old man a gift." Tian covered his head and looked at Ning Shu from the corner of his eyes. "Don't touch her. She doesn't look elegant or beautiful at all. I'll worry about the gift myself." The gift seemed to be very flattering. That old man would definitely not accept it. The most important thing was to open your heart to him. The old man had lived for such a long time. What had he not seen before? What had he not seen before? His heart was calm without any ripples. Ning Shu was too lazy to interfere with Fa Tian's matters. It was fine as long as Fa Tian knew what he was doing. This way, he wouldn't be implicated. Fa Tian's heart was also tenacious and independent. Fa Tian was very clingy when he was young. Now, Fa Tian was looking at people with slanted eyes. He wasn't cute anymore. "Ning Shu, you're no longer my little baby." Fa Tian was speechless. Fa Tian reminded Ning Shu again to take good care of the ultimate martial art. Don't throw it away for no reason. If he couldn't find it, he couldn't give it to others. Ning Shu nodded repeatedly and said that he understood. He said that he treasured the ultimate martial art even more than Fa Tian. The smile on Fa Tian's face gradually froze. Finally, he said expressionlessly, "I'm leaving." Ning Shu pulled Fa Tian back. "I was joking. What I meant was, This thing is as important as you. I definitely won't lose it. Fation was still expressionless. In your heart, I can't even compare to a book. No, it's a space now. An empty space. Ning Shu patted Fation's head. That's enough. A black hole appeared in the system space. The black hole trembled violently. Then a skeleton jumped out. This skeleton was wearing a t-shirt and jeans. It looked fashionable. Ning Shu couldn't recognize it. He called out tentatively, Ju-jun. Ju-jun said directly, there's a problem with the souls in the world of reincarnation. You should go and take a look. The world is trembling. Ning Shu didn't have time to ask where Ju-jun's clothes came from. He quickly asked, how long has it been? When did it start? I'll go in and take a look. Fation followed Ning Shu. I'll go too. Once they entered the world of reincarnation and stepped on the ground, the world of reincarnation trembled as if there was an earthquake. And the tremors were quite strong. The souls in the world of reincarnation were also very flustered. They either hugged each other and trembled, or ran everywhere. In short, it was as if a disaster was about to befall them. Although the world of reincarnation was his, Ning Shu didn't know where the problem was. He could only ask Fation, other than this world, what's the situation in the other worlds of reincarnation? Beside him, Fation also frowned and looked around to check the area. Ju-jun was obviously very familiar with the situation in the world of reincarnation. He said, among all the worlds of reincarnation, only this world is trembling violently. In the beginning, there was only a slight tremor. I couldn't even feel it. I sent many skeletons out to find the cause, but they didn't find anything. Later on, the tremors became more and more intense. I had no other choice but to look for you. Ning Shu frowned. In other words, only this world of reincarnation was trembling. Luckily, the other worlds weren't trembling. They had just connected to some of the living worlds, and the world had a problem. It was an inferior product. They wanted to ask him for a refund. Although there were uncertainties about the collapse of the world, it didn't make sense for it to collapse after being connected for such a short time. Now, they had to find out the cause of the tremors. Could it be that there was a crack in the world of reincarnation? Ning Shu and the other two ran around the world. They used their spiritual power to scan every inch of sand. They even checked the situation of the bit wall outside. But they didn't find any problems. They couldn't find out where the problem was. However, the world was shaking nonstop. What was the reason for this? Ning Shu scratched his head and asked the two of them, is this world hinting at something? Is it foretelling some danger? They couldn't find any problem with the world. But the world was still trembling. They really couldn't find the problem. Fation was silent. Ju-jun said directly, it knows how to foretell danger. This was a little hurtful. Indeed, the world of reincarnation wasn't a single person. Ning Shu said, then let's call the little devil back. There was a problem with the world of reincarnation. They had to call the little devil back. As a living creature born in this world, the little devil might be able to find out what was wrong with the world. So what if the bitwall was born? The follow-up problem would come. They couldn't just ignore these bitwalls. If they really couldn't find the problem and couldn't find a solution, then they could only let nature take its course. Ning Shu returned to the system space and contacted His Excellency. He asked His Excellency to inform the little devil that the little devil's home was gone and he was going to be homeless. So he asked him to come back and see his home for the last time. After a while, the little devil appeared in the world of reincarnation. The little devil's figure was a little taller. There was a black hook-like tail behind his butt, swaying from side to side. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3821. Ning Shu stared at the little demon's tail and asked, when did you have a tail? He remembered that the little demon didn't have a tail in the past. He still had to develop inhumanly. He had to leave a hole in his pants in the future. The little demon was already a teenager. He had silver pupils and a wagging tail. He looked quite cool. The little demon asked, what's the problem? Ning Shu, can't you feel it? The world has been shaking. Of course I feel it. I'm asking you why it's like this. The little demon frowned and asked, his silver pupils narrowed, he looked like a wild beast. Ning Shu, I called you back to ask you, why are you asking us? The little demon was speechless. He walked around with his arms crossed, his hooked tail wagging and his butt sticking out. Ning Shu suddenly felt that the little demon had grown up. He had the ability to attract girls. Fa Tian was still a baby beside him. The little demon wandered around the world alone, looking for the problem of the plane. Ning Shu's group didn't stay idle. They couldn't let the world of reincarnation shake like this. Otherwise the reincarnation pool would keep shaking, it would affect the reincarnation of souls. Ning Shu walked around and stopped in front of Nine Palace Mountain. He circled around it. Ning Shu called the little demon back, pointed at Nine Palace Mountain and asked them, "Look, isn't that a crack?" A crack appeared on Nine Palace Mountain. The little demon looked at Nine Palace Mountain. "It is indeed a crack. You actually put this thing in the world of reincarnation. It will affect both the world of reincarnation and Nine Palace Mountain." Ning Shu, I can't carry such a mountain. Could it be because of the crack on Nine Palace Mountain? The life force inside leaked out and affected the world of reincarnation? Then they would have to move Nine Palace Mountain out of the world of reincarnation, and more importantly, repair it. The crack wasn't short, it almost crossed half of Nine Palace Mountain, which meant that half of the world of Nine Palace Mountain was affected. Ning Shu looked at the little demon. His eyes couldn't help but stare at his wagging tail. The tail was like the long tail of a leopard. There was a hook on the tail. It emitted a dark luster. This hook seemed to be an attack method. The little demon was now filled with wild attacking power. He had a wild sexiness at such a young age. He was like a leopard full of power. Ning Shu tried her best to shift her attention away from his tail and said, "Then let's move Nine Palace Mountain away." Ning Shu encouraged the little devil. "Work hard for your home." The little demon crossed his arms and tapped the ground with his toes. "I'll carry him alone. You guys just watch from the side." Ning Shu, "Of course we will help." Little demon, "Then where should we put this mountain?" "We have to find a place to put it." "I have a place to put it. Just find it and think of it." The world tree had so many spaces that it could be placed anywhere. The Nine Palace Mountain was only the size of a mountain. That space couldn't fit such a mountain. The little demon's expression relaxed a little, all his muscles bulging. He planned to lift Nine Palace Mountain. Ning Shu stretched out his hand and called Fa Tian. Fa Tian turned into a black whip. It flashed and appeared in Ning Shu's hand. At the same time, a miniature world of Nine Palace Mountain appeared in Ning Shu's left hand. Ning Shu chose a leaf to hold Nine Palace Mountain. Ning Shu swung the whip beautifully. The whip lengthened and wrapped around the entire Nine Palace Mountain. The little demon's muscles bulged. He held Nine Palace Mountain with both hands. The two of them and the whip exerted their strength at the same time, forcefully moving the Nine Palace Mountain. Then, with a powerful swing, the Nine Palace Mountain was thrown into a leaf. The world of Nine Palace Mountain's leaf trembled. It fell from the tree. The entire world of Nine Palace Mountain trembled violently from the impact. After a while, the trembling stopped. Although Nine Palace Mountain had been moved away from the world of reincarnation, the world of reincarnation was still trembling. Clearly, the trembling wouldn't stop just because Nine Palace Mountain left. It would probably tremble for a while, allowing the world of reincarnation to digest this life force. However, this life force clearly caused some damage to the world of reincarnation. The world of reincarnation and the world of living beings were different worlds. They couldn't coexist. Life force and death aura clashed. What they needed to deal with now was the crack on Nine Palace Mountain. They didn't notice that there was such a big crack on Nine Palace Mountain. Just now, the Nine Palace Mountain probably had a hard time. The world inside Nine Palace Mountain was also turned upside down. After all, the bottle shook violently. The things inside couldn't have remained unmoved. I wonder how Yao Nyang and the others are doing. I have to think of a way to mend the crack. The little demon patted the dust off his hands and said, "I'll stay here for a while and see if there are any other problems in the world." Ning Shu nodded and said to Zhu Jun, "Bring him around to familiarize himself with the world of reincarnation. I'll go deal with Nine Palace Mountain." After the little demon was born, he followed His Excellency. Looking at the little demon who was as wild as a leopard, Ning Shu was puzzled. His Excellency walked the path of a cultured scum, but the child he raised was so wild. He still looked like a teenager. He stood there with his tail wagging unconsciously. He indeed looked like he was bursting with hormones. The little demon left with Zhu Jun. Ning Shu's gaze was still fixed on the little demon's tail. Fa Tian, who had turned back into a human, coughed and said, "You actually have such a hobby, you're crazy." Ning Shu was puzzled. What hobby? If you like to tie things up, I can do it too. Ning Shu snorted. What tie things up? How can you not see it? Your eyes fell on that tail. Fa Tian said indifferently, that tail poked your sensitive spot. Ning Shu slapped Fa Tian's head. What are you talking about? You're just a kid. I have a lot of sensitive spots. I like to see those that are good looking. There weren't many people like the little demon who casually exposed his tail, but it was surprisingly good looking, unique, and new. Fa Tian's expression was self-evident. Ning Shu didn't talk nonsense with Fa Tian. He directly entered the space of the leaf and looked at the towering mountain in the space. Previously, he didn't feel anything in the world of reincarnation, but now he could clearly feel a wave of vitality seeping through the cracks. No wonder the world of reincarnation had such a huge reaction, vitality and death colliding. Ning Shu looked at the cracks. He was worried. What should he do? Fa Tian asked, "What should we do?" Ning Shu rubbed his chin and pondered, finally saying, "I don't know." Fa Tian was speechless. He rolled his eyes. Ning Shu said again, "I don't know, but if someone is willing to spend money, someone will definitely know." Find Baidu Nyang Sang Liang to view the new chapter of Zue. Please go to mobile address. Chapter 3822. Actually, the problem was not that simple. There was a crack in the Nine Palace Mountain that needed to be repaired to prevent the life force from leaking out. But there was another problem. There was a big hole in the first level of the Nine Palace Mountain, and the first level was a reincarnation world. If the Nine Palace Mountain left the reincarnation world, then the first reincarnation world did not have a rebirth pool. Because the rebirth pool was on the first level of the Nine Palace Mountain, the Nine Palace Mountain shared a rebirth pool with the reincarnation world outside. And with such a big hole, the death aura in the reincarnation world would leak out. Could it be that he had to pull the Thunder Beast over and use its huge butt to block the hole? But that wouldn't work either. The Thunder Beast was alive. It couldn't possibly stay still and block the hole all the time. It felt like the Nine Palace Mountain was a piece of junk that needed to be repaired. The first reincarnation world did not have a rebirth pool. The souls inside were also troublesome. They could not even reincarnate because there was no rebirth pool. Ning Shu looked at the reincarnation world that was constantly emitting life force and death aura. He felt very helpless. What else could he do? He could only solve it slowly. However, Ning Shu still pulled the Thunder Beast into the space and let its fat but temporarily block the hole. He would think about it after finding Sang Liang and finding a solution. The Thunder Beast's eyes flickered with lightning. Half of its body was stuck in the hole, and it looked at Ning Shu in a daze. Although the Thunder Beast ate some intelligence-increasing pills, its intelligence was still not high. So Ning Shu stuck it in the hole. The Thunder Beast was very confused. Ning Shu said, "Stay here for now. Wait for me to come back. Don't come out." The Thunder Beast's body was very big, but its body could not completely block the hole. However, this could slow down the flow of air, and the death aura inside would dissipate slower. On one side was life force, on the other side was death aura. These two forces collided in the entire space. It was inevitable that life force would flow into the reincarnation world. And some death aura would also enter the world of life through the cracks. It was really troublesome. After Ning Shu finished speaking, he went to the outside of the consultation room in the city of water. Fa Tian followed Ning Shu into the consultation room. He sat on a chair with his legs dangling. Fa Tian was still not very tall. When he sat on the chair, his legs couldn't even touch the ground. She didn't know what Sang Liang was busy with, but after waiting for a while, no one came. He had never waited for such a long time before. Fa Tian looked at him and asked, "Is he rejecting you and not doing business with you?" Ning Shu. Wait a little longer. If it really didn't work, he could just ask someone else. He didn't know if the world plane would be able to hold on for much longer. It looked like a crack from the outside, but the situation inside the world was probably very bad. After waiting for about 2 hours, Sang Liang arrived late and in a hurry. Ning Shu saw small beads of sweat on his forehead. His entire body was steaming hot, and no one knew what he was doing. Sang Liang sat down, stabilized his breathing and asked, "What is it?" Ning Shu quickly explained the situation and directly asked what could be used to mend the crack. Sang Liang said, "Use star stones." Fortunately, star stones were easy to find. Ning Shu asked again, "What about the big hole?" "Use star stones too. Melt them into bricks and build them up." Ning Shu, star stones were actually so powerful. They existed like glue and were hard enough. After melting, they were very sticky. Ning Shu got the answer and asked how much the consultation fee was. As he asked, "Why did it take so long this time? I've been waiting for more than 2 hours." Sang Liang said indifferently, "Sorry for the wait. 200,000 merit points." Ning Shu, couldn't it be cheaper after making him wait for so long? Ning Shu didn't have time to argue with Sang Liang about the small amount of merit points. The main thing was that 9 Palace Mountain couldn't wait. He couldn't lose the big picture for the small. Ning Shu gave the money and then thought for a moment. He didn't want to bother 2 people with the same problem, so he asked, "The organization has extra star stones now, right? I want to buy some." Not long ago, hundreds and thousands of Earth collapsed. There should be a lot of star stones. Sang Liang nodded. "Yes, how much do you need?" Ning Shu estimated the plane crack. It would take a lot of star stones to fill half of the crack. Besides, there was still a big hole to fill. Ning Shu, "Quite a lot. If it's not enough, I'll ask you for more. Let's start with 5 million merit points and borrow some props." Getting star stones required props. It was a bit difficult with just a pair of hands, and he had to do it alone. Although Fatian could help, he was a child after all, and he was going to the Holy Land. He couldn't help. Sang Liang didn't say anything and nodded. As long as the money was in place, everything was negotiable. Sang Liang, "Give me the location of the space node. Someone will send it to you." "Oh, it could even be delivered to the door." Ning Shu gave an address and then went back to wait. Not long after, a soldier in military uniform gave Ning Shu a meson space. The meson space was full of star stones and some props to process them. Ning Shu thanked him and then hurriedly entered the leaf. Looking at 9 Palace Mountain, he planned to deal with the crack first. It was relatively easy to deal with the crack. He just needed to melt the star stones and pour them on the crack. The dried star stones were very stiff. It was like patching up a leather shoe with glue. The star stones were the glue. Ning Shu poured out the star stones and took the props to melt them. Fatian asked, "What am I doing?" Ning Shu asked, "Can you do this to the star stones? If you can, help me melt them." Fatian nodded and helped to melt the star stones. Ning Shu poured the melted star stones on the crack. He wanted to make a thick layer. If it was too thin, it would still be useless. The number of star stones consumed was very large. Fatian melted the star stones, and Ning Shu was in charge of pouring the star stones. He didn't know if this would work or if 9 Palace Mountain could still be saved. He had a headache. The main reason why he didn't move 9 Palace Mountain away early was that the first layer of 9 Palace Mountain was connected to the outside world. They shared the reincarnation pool. Once he moved it, there would be a lot of trouble. But in fact, things would still happen. After all, the world of living beings and the world of reincarnation were contradictory. Mending a crack consumed a lot of star stones. Ning Shu looked at the few star stones left and felt his scalp tingle. How many star stones would it consume? Mending half of the crack already consumed 5 million star stones. And there was still such a big hole. Ning Shu looked as calm as an old dog, but he was so heartbroken that he couldn't breathe. His facial muscles were twitching. Clearly, Heaven knew Ning Shu well. He said, "Looks like we'll have to spend a lot of star stones this time. Do you still have money?" Chapter 38-23. Ning Shu's face twitched even more, and his eyelids twitched wildly. Fa Tian added, "Do you have any acquaintances who can make it cheaper? It's a bit of a waste to buy it like this. Just find someone to buy it, and there will be no middleman to make a profit." Ning Shu, candidates popped up in his mind, and he crossed out Fragrant Wind Man. Sang Liang bought a piece of star stone for more than 1,000,000 yuan. Now he felt that Sang Liang was too kind. Ning Shu decided to ask Mo Ming. Mo Ming's position in the army seemed to be slowly rising, and his authority would be much wider. He should have the authority. And some time ago, the plane had been badly damaged, so there should be a lot of star stones in storage. She had handled a lot of star stones. Let's finish the star stones first. They worked together and finally patched up half of the crack. To patch up the whole crack, they needed twice as many star stones. Ning Shu contacted Mo Ming because Ning Shu felt that Mo Ming was an upright boy compared to those big shots. Besides, they had some relationship, so Mo Ming wouldn't be as black-hearted as Fragrant Wind Man. Mo Ming replied and asked Ning Shu what he wanted. Ning Shu directly told him what he wanted. Mo Ming didn't answer immediately, but said, "I'll see how much stock we have." "How much do you need?" Ning Shu swallowed and said, "I need a lot, at least tens of millions of star stones." Ning Shu thought for a while and asked, "Do you keep all these star stones?" Mo Ming, "Yes, the army takes care of a lot of materials." Ning Shu asked, "Do you have the authority to sell this thing?" Mo Ming, "Yes, I do. The merit points gained from selling this thing are all used for military expenses. Generally speaking, few people use this thing, but the world of samsara needs some. It was useless for ordinary tasks. Except for connecting planes, it didn't have much use in other aspects." Ning Shu curled his lips. "Why did you sell it at such a high price? Didn't you have an internal employee?" Those star stones all went through her hands. After a while, Mo Ming came back and said, "We have a lot in stock. How much do you want?" "How much is the price?" Mo Ming gave a price. Ning Shu heard it and realized that it was 30% of Sang Liang's price. It was much cheaper. Ning Shu didn't say anything. For people like Sang Liang, they would definitely seek to maximize their benefits. Since this income was for the military, it was obvious that Mo Ming wanted to benefit the military as well. Of course, he had to earn some money. Who would do a losing business? Ning Shu, give me 15 million merit points worth of star stones first. Ning Shu spoke very magnanimously, but his heart was already bleeding. He seemed to be doing a losing business, and he didn't get anything from Nine Palace Mountain. On the other hand, he had always been running around the Nine Palace Mountain, investing a lot of energy and money into it. Ning Shu patted the body of the Nine Palace Mountain. At the very least, he would be rewarded with some merit points. The creatures in those worlds were ignorant. They knew nothing about the outside world. They didn't know that they were being protected. But could it be that the heavenly Tao of a living world had no idea? Mutual benefits were the only way to last. He couldn't just give in to one side. Not long after, someone came to deliver the goods. It was the soldier from before. He said to Ning Shu, "If you need anything else, please let me know. I will deliver it to you." Ning Shu thanked him. This service was quite good. With the materials, he continued to work. After working for a long time, he finally patched up a crack. When the star stones solidified, there wouldn't be any more life energy seeping out. Next was to fix the big hole. The hole was too big. He couldn't just melt the star stones and paste them on. First, he had to melt the irregular stone and then put it into a mold to form a brick. After forming the brick, he had to stack it up like building a house. So tiring. Ning Shu said to Fa Tian, "Take a rest. I will do it slowly." Fa Tian didn't force it. He sat down and took out some spicy meat jerky from his mesen space. Ning Shu started to make the brick. This kind of brick wasn't as complicated as a real brick. It was just that it took a lot of effort to melt the star stones. Fa Tian ate a piece of jerky and stuffed one into Ning Shu's mouth, feeding it to Ning Shu. Ning Shu was also busy eating. Not far away, the Thunder Beast looked at Ning Shu and Fa Tian. It was lying on the ground with its chin on the ground, staring at them. Fation looked at the jerky in his hand and walked over to give it to the Thunder Beast. The Thunder Beast was stunned. It reflexively refused. Its eyes widened slightly. It raised its head, and the lightning in its eyes crackled. It was clearly shocked by the strange taste of the jerky. It didn't know what the Thunder Beast usually ate. Clearly, it had never eaten this kind of thing before. Fation looked and opened another pack. He poured it all into the Thunder Beast's mouth. The Thunder Beast opened its mouth obediently and allowed Fation to pour the jerky into its mouth. It chewed loudly. Ning Shu was busy making bricks. He didn't have enough star stones, so he asked Mo Ming for another 10 million star stones. Not only did he have to make bricks, but he also needed star stones to connect them. Ning Shu's face was hideous. The more he calculated, the more his heart ached. So what if his heart ached? He still had to buy, but Ning Shu piled up many bricks. When the star stones dried up and turned into bricks, he started to build a house. The Thunder Beast came out of the hole. A gust of death aura overflowed. Fation put away the jerky and started to help Ning Shu melt the star stones. The two worked together and slowly patched up the hole. They didn't have enough star stones, so they bought another batch. Ning Shu was too lazy to calculate how much money he had spent. After patching up the hole, Ning Shu and Fation were both covered in dust. They looked at each other and smiled, revealing their snow-white teeth. After patching up the hole, they could go and deal with the souls in the world of reincarnation. Without the 9-Palace Mountain, there would be no reincarnation pool. Ning Shu arrived at the world of reincarnation. He found the little demon and said, "There is no reincarnation pool in this world. There is no way to reincarnate. Let's change to another world of reincarnation." Anyway, the world of reincarnation was more spacious. He could take these souls there. The little demon crossed his arms and tiptoed. He said carelessly, "It's not that troublesome. I'll just eat them. If I can't reincarnate, then I won't reincarnate. Maybe the reincarnation pool will be born in this world." The little demon's tone was like he was killing chickens and ducks. After all, souls were food to him. Ning Shu said, "It's not like the souls are overloaded. Why eat them? Put them in another world." Generally speaking, if there were too many souls in a world of reincarnation and it exceeded the capacity of the world, there would be existences like the little demon and the Lord to balance it out. For example, if there were too many pigs in a pen and it was too crowded, the pen might be destroyed. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3824. The little demon was rebuked by Ning Shu and expressionlessly said, "Then you tell me how to do it. I don't care." Ning Shu, Fation, and Ju Jun all stared at the little demon. The little demon's tail was shaking violently. It was clear that the little demon's heart was fluctuating violently. Ning Shu said, "Don't tell me you don't have a way. You are so powerful you can go anywhere." The little demon snorted. It was very unhappy with Ning Shu's seemingly derogatory words. It opened its mouth mischievously to Ning Shu. As soon as it opened its mouth, a huge suction force sucked Ning Shu into its mouth. Ning Shu was naturally able to stabilize himself. His dantian sank, and his heels were firmly rooted to the ground. It was just that his hair was slapping his face. Ning Shu could withstand it, but ordinary souls couldn't. One by one, they were sucked into the little demon's mouth. The souls cried and screamed, but they still couldn't escape their fate of being swallowed. The little demon's stomach bulged at a speed visible to the naked eye. All the souls in the world of reincarnation were sucked into the little demon's stomach. The little demon hiccuped and rubbed its stomach. An ugly expression appeared on its face. So fucking ugly. The little demon was a bit bloated. Ning Shu expressionlessly said, "Why did you swallow them? If I don't swallow them, how can I take them away?" The little demon said snappily, "When the time comes, I'll just spit them out. There are so many souls, it won't be easy to digest." Fation's face revealed a disgusted expression. "That's so disgusting." The little demon saw Fation's expression and felt even more unhappy. She had sacrificed her image, but these people were still laughing at her. The little demon said unhappily, Hurry up, otherwise these souls will be digested. Which world of reincarnation will you put them in? Ning Shu brought the little demon to a world of reincarnation with relatively fewer souls. The little demon glanced at Ning Shu and Fei Tian, turned its back to them, and then used its fingers to dig into its throat. Then it spat out a lot of souls. Fei Tian's expression became even more disgusted. Even more disgusting. Ning Shu didn't feel anything. Even if the little demon spat out rainbow-colored vomit, his expression wouldn't change. He observed that these souls had been in the belly of the imps for a while, and when they came out, their souls were weaker than before. This was especially true for those souls that were already weak to begin with. Now, they were even weaker. The little devil wiped the corner of his mouth and said, "Done. I'm leaving." Ning Shu stared at these souls and said, "It's not that I want to absorb these souls. Once they enter my body will naturally digest these souls." "What's wrong? I've already helped. Could it be that you still can't absorb a bit of soul power?" The little demon crossed his arms, his face full of displeasure and arrogance. "According to my style of doing things, I should have swallowed all of them. Since there is no rebirth pool, it means that they have lost the chance to be reborn. Heavens should have allowed me to devour it. Otherwise, there would have been more and more souls in this world." "Oomph." Ning Shu glanced at him. "Why are you so agitated?" "I didn't say anything." Ning Shu immediately reacted. "Are you nervous? It's your first time working. Don't be nervous." This was the little demon's first official work. The little demon suddenly exploded. "I'm not nervous. How am I nervous? Don't talk nonsense. What's there to be nervous about?" Ning Shu and Fei Tian looked at the little devil with understanding and forgiving eyes. The little devil's hair stood on end. He turned around and left in a flash. Ning Shu sighed. This matter was finally over. He felt like he was going to explode from exhaustion. Fei Tian took out a plate of fruits from his mesen space and handed it to Ning Shu. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and looked at Fei Tian's neck. How many fruits were hanging on his neck? Ning Shu took a fruit and threw it into his mouth. It was cool. Tian ate as he asked Ning Shu, "Are you going to the nursery?" "I have a human soul. That old man will not accept me." Ning Shu spread his hands and said. The two returned to the system space while talking. Tian said, "Let's try again." Tian looked at the little mouse sculpture and squinted his eyes. He smiled and said, "What if that old man is kind?" Ning Shu looked at Tian strangely. "Okay then, I'll try again." Anyway, he wouldn't lose anything by trying. Ning Shu noticed that the surface of Little Rat's clay sculpture was covered with specks of light. She reached out and touched it. She felt that it contained vitality. Look, Little Mouse has more vitality than before. Could it be that the little mouse really had a chance to wake up? Tian nodded. Yes, it has more vitality than before. Then the guess in his heart was slowly being verified. There was a high probability. If that was the case, then Ning Shu might have a chance to enter the nursery. Ning Shu felt that Tian couldn't bear to part with the little mouse, which was why he resurrected the little mouse. He didn't seem to treat the little mouse well, but at the critical moment, he still helped the little mouse. Tian asked, "When will you go to the nursery with me?" Ning Shu replied, "Let's go now. There's plenty of time anyway." Tian smiled and nodded. Just as he was about to speak, the chat system rang, and the smile on Tian's face disappeared. Ning Shu opened the chat system. It was a message from His Excellency. The first thing he asked was, "What did you do to him? Why did you lock yourself up after coming back?" Ning Shu, "What happened? I didn't do anything to the little demon. I didn't even touch his hair." Ning Shu shouted that he was wronged. He didn't do anything. The little demon was actually so shy. He only vomited in front of others. How could he be so shy that he couldn't see anyone? He looked so wild on the outside, but he was incomparably shy on the inside. TSK. It was probably because his pride was bursting, and he didn't allow himself to do anything embarrassing in front of others. His Excellency obviously didn't believe him. Ning Shu could only play a prank on him and blabbered on about the little demon's appearance. His Excellency had spent more time with the little demon than others, and he definitely understood the little demon's temper. His Excellency didn't say anything and ignored Ning Shu. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. His Excellency probably felt that the little demon was being bullied by him. Next, Mo Ming came to ask Ning Shu when he would pay the rest of the money. The army was waiting for the military funds. Ning Shu sent the money in his account to Mo Ming. Mo Ming's status was different now, and he had a lot of things to worry about. Since Mo Ming made things convenient for her, she naturally couldn't keep delaying the payment. After receiving the rest of the money, Mo Ming sent Ning Shu a smiling face with a row of teeth. After Mo Ming, the main system notified Ning Shu to deal with the Star Stone. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3825. Fa Tian stood in the corner, his entire body emitting a dark aura. Ning Shu said to Fa Tian, "When I'm done, I'll follow you to the nursery." Dan Qing, who didn't have much of a presence, appeared again and asked weakly, "If you're going to the sacred land, when are you coming back? The mission still needs to be completed, the star stones still need to be dealt with, and the fragments still need to be picked up." Fa Tian's lips curled up. "Kiki." Ning Shu brushed his long hair and said with melancholy, "Sigh, capable people are so busy. I need to build everywhere." Fa Tian. Dan Qing. Ning Shu went to pick up the fragments to deal with the star stones. Looking at the dense fragments in the sky, how many planes had been shattered? There was no other way. The roots had already started to wither, so the leaves would also wither. It was expected that all kinds of situations would occur in the plains. He didn't know if the organization had made some divine runes beside the Sea of Law. It was possible to make some divine runes of rejuvenation. Although the effect was small, it was better than nothing. Senior Uncle and Sang Liang went to the sacred land whenever they had nothing to do, so they obviously knew about the divine runes. Ning Shu felt a little tired. Previously, he had been mending the 9 Palace Mountain and melting the star stones. His soul spirit was a little dim, and now he had to deal with the star stones. There was no other way. Ning Shu took the tools and started to deal with the star stones. Now, he felt a little nauseous when he saw the star stones. Tian sat at the side and ate. Fa Tian's mouth was especially lonely. He loved to eat and move his mouth when he had nothing to do. Ning Shu was dealing with the star stones when Fa Tian suddenly elbowed Ning Shu. Ning Shu turned to look at Fa Tian. Fa Tian lifted his chin in a direction, indicating for Ning Shu to look there. Ning Shu followed Fa Tian's gaze and saw Senior Uncle in black. His footsteps were a little weak, and his body looked a little unstable and stiff. His hair covered his forehead, and even his eyes couldn't be seen. Ning Shu frowned. He could see that there was something wrong with Taishu's state. What did it have to do with her? Ning Shu continued to deal with his star stones. Fa Tian kept elbowing Ning Shu. When Ning Shu raised his head, he felt a shadow in front of him. Just as he was about to stand up, someone grabbed his neck from behind. He was lifted up like a little chick, his feet off the ground. Ning Shu, fate has me by the throat. Ning Shu's body was turned around, and he saw a face full of black lines. The scarlet eyes were faintly discernible through the hair. The Grand Elder revealed his 2 sharp teeth. Coupled with the black lines on his face, he looked unspeakably unsightly. Ning Shu looked at her with disdain. "You're so ugly. This person shouldn't be Senior Uncle." Senior Uncle laughed, closed his eyes, and took a deep breath. He looked a little intoxicated and said in a hoarse and rough voice, "I think you're a little familiar. I'll melt you." Fa Tian's face was serious. He turned into a whip and wrapped it around Senior Uncle's body. The Grand Elder reached out his hand and grabbed the whip that was wrapped around his body. He pulled with all his might and almost tore it apart. Tian turned into his human form, and his face was pale. Ning Shu frowned. "Don't go too far. We'll meet again in the future." The Grand Elder let out a sinister laugh. "In the future, what? How embarrassing." Ning Shu. Senior Uncle's red eyes were filled with evil, lust, and recklessness. One could see the shadow of a minister. Before, it was just a cloud of black fog. Now, it seemed to have consciousness. Ning Shu was speechless. He looked at senior uncle silently and said helplessly, "You're still so ugly. So ugly. Ugly, ugly." Senior uncle was confused for a moment. He grabbed Ning Shu's neck and shook it. Ning Shu's body was also swung out. He smiled and licked Ning Shu's face with his scarlet tongue. His eyes were full of greed and evil. He planned to swallow Ning Shu in one bite. Ning Shu was expressionless. She was licked by senior uncle like food, but her heart didn't waver. However, the hand that was strangling her neck was a little hard, and she couldn't break free. Senior uncle didn't hesitate and bit Ning Shu's face. Ning Shu's beautiful face suddenly lost its breath, like an apple that had been bitten. Ning Shu hissed as if her flesh and blood had been gnawed away. She looked at senior uncle coldly. Senior uncle returned Ning Shu's gaze with another bite. Ning Shu's face was gnawed like the surface of the moon. The surrounding big shots were stunned. They hesitated whether to stop it or not. If this continued, the task enforcer would be gnawed away by the judge. Like a fried dough twist. Some people came over. Senior uncle turned his head and looked at them. He had a pair of scarlet eyes, a face full of black lines, and an evil smile on the corner of his mouth. He revealed his fangs and licked them with the tip of his tongue. The black lines on his face began to spread again. Such a judge successfully stopped those who wanted to come forward. Everyone stopped and didn't dare to go forward. They really couldn't figure out what the judge wanted to do. During this time, Ning Shu's gnawed face had recovered. However, a lot of her soul power had been gnawed away, and her soul was a little weak. After such an accident happened here, the army quickly came over to protect her. Sang Liang rushed over. All the bigwigs present had been chased away, and the army had surrounded them in layers. Senior uncle was very dissatisfied that someone had disturbed his meal. When he saw Sang Liang, his emotions fluctuated greatly. "You again! You again!" When he got angry, the unlucky one was naturally Ning Shu. He opened his mouth and bit off half of Ning Shu's head. Ning Shu raised her hand and touched her head. Half of her head was gone. She couldn't imagine how ugly she was. Ning Shu's gaze turned cold. He raised his hand and slapped senior uncle's face. Senior uncle's face was slapped to the side. He slowly turned his head and revealed his fangs. With another bite, he bit off the other half of Ning Shu's head. Fa Tian's expression became unsightly. He was on the verge of crying as he glared at senior uncle with hatred. He turned to Sang Liang and asked, "Are you just going to watch her get swallowed?" Sang Liang frowned but didn't say anything. He looked calm. Fa Tian said, "If he really swallows Ning Shu, his strength will increase greatly. The other person definitely won't be able to suppress him." Fa Tian could see that the person holding the book was coldly watching as Ning Shu was devoured. He was going to devour Ning Shu's life force. Even if he could strengthen the black fog, it would also benefit the other person. Especially now that Ning Shu was bound to the peerless martial art. Devouring Ning Shu was equivalent to devouring half of the peerless martial arts energy. Fa Tian was very anxious. He was so worried that he started to walk in circles. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3826. Sang Liang glanced at the anxious Evan and said, "It's useless to be anxious. At least let her break free from his control. He has a hostage in his hands. If he rushes over, he will only die faster." Evan chuckled and said, "Then let's wait. Wait for the other party to finish eating her. In short, she can't move now. If she can't wait, sooner or later she will be completely swallowed." Sang Liang frowned and said, "It's a little troublesome." Ning Shu's entire head was gone. She raised her hand and touched her empty head. Her beautiful head was gone. Originally, she didn't want to lose so many souls, but now she had to sacrifice the excess soul power. Ning Shu shouted to Ephedun, "Directly cut off my body below my neck." Senior uncle pinched her neck. At worst, he would just give up the soul power above her neck. In an instant, a whip appeared in Fa Tian's hand. With a snap, he threw it over and directly scattered Ning Shu's body below her shoulder. Ning Shu was in great pain. She was bitten by senior uncle and beaten by Fa Tian. Fa Tian wrapped the whip around Ning Shu and directly rolled Ning Shu over. The headless Ning Shu began to slowly gather her head, but her soul was even weaker. Tian exhaled and pulled Ning Shu and said, "Let's hurry up and leave." Ning Shu moved her neck, and her somewhat empty face looked incomparably cold. "Why are you leaving?" Being pinched by senior uncle was like being pressed down by Five Finger Mountain. Now that she was free, Ning Shu felt that her whole body was full of strength. She could transform into a scion. Ning Shu opened her hand, and Fa Tian turned into a pitch-black whip and appeared in her hand. Ning Shu pinched the whip, and her face was cold and indifferent. Losing his target, senior grand-uncle turned around stiffly and stared at Ning Shu. His scarlet eyes trembled, and his pupils turned red for a while and then dimmed. He clutched his head in incomparable pain and roared. The black patterns on his face seemed to be twisting and twisting, disappearing one moment and reappearing the next. This cycle repeated over and over. "Why are you doing this to me? Who are you and who am I?" With a ferocious face, the Grand Elder pounced on Ning Shu. Sang Liang hurriedly opened the book and pulled out a page. The page grew bigger and blocked the Grand Elder's path. The Grand Elder was blocked by the golden paper. His scarlet eyes were full of anger. As if he had no intelligence, he bumped straight into the stiff barrier. Ning Shu's face was full of disdain. He had never seen such an idiot in his life. The Grand Elder was completely enraged. More black lines appeared on his face. With a roar, he rammed his body against the barrier. Cracks appeared on the barrier, and it finally cracked with a bang. Sang Liang's expression changed, and he hurriedly pulled out the paper. However, the Grand Elder was very fast. He stretched out his hand to grab Ning Shu. Ning Shu tiptoed and retreated quickly. With a cold smile on his face, he raised the whip and poured all the inexplicable power in his body into the holy whip. As her black hair fluttered in the wind, Ning Shu raised her whip, which whistled through the air and landed on the Grand Elder's body with a loud bang. The Grand Elder's body paused for a moment and he groaned. Obviously, he was in pain. Ning Shu had gone all out. Coupled with the unknown source of energy in her body, she felt like she was about to explode. If she didn't release this energy, Ning Shu felt that she might die first. "So, I don't care if you're the Grand Elder or the Prime Minister." As the Holy Whip, the person who bore this power also felt some pain. He said to Ning Shu, "Control your power." Ning Shu said, "I can't control myself." The endless power of unknown origin made Ning Shu very confused. Could it be that he was full of adrenaline? That's impossible. Fa Tian was speechless. There was no other way. Even Heaven Punishing had to unleash this power. Ning Shu and Fa Tian both targeted the Grand Elder. Their hearts were full of murderous intent. The two cooperated and broke out a huge power. Sang Liang frowned and opened the book. The pages were blank. Obviously, this book couldn't analyze the current situation. The Grand Elder's power was very unstable. In addition, there were two things fighting in his body, which made it convenient for Ning Shu. The Grand Elder was furious. His body erupted with a strong black, greedy, and evil aura, covering a large area. The Grand Elder, who was shrouded in black mist, couldn't see his face clearly. Only his scarlet eyes and sharp white teeth were particularly obvious. He pulled out a huge black sword. The huge sword was covered with strange patterns. It looked like a divine pattern but not a god. Ning Shu was vigilant, but the majestic power in her body gave her enough confidence. She felt that she could fight with this damn thing. Ning Shu was really fed up. The resentment in her heart made her move particularly fierce. She was full of murderous intent, no less than the Grand Elder. "I don't care how noble or excellent you are. It has nothing to do with me. But if you want to take whatever you want from me, I will never agree." The sword and the whip collided, creating fierce sparks. The aftershocks swept out. Ning Shu was very sarcastic. "You're really trash. When you were alive, you were suppressed by your brother. Now that you're dead, you're neither human nor ghost. You can live until now because you're a reserve of the Sea of Law. You're also a waste. You can't form a new Sea of Law. You're a trash that's being played in the palm of someone's hand, yet you're still so proud of yourself. Ning Shu's voice was malicious and sarcastic. The Grand Elder's scarlet eyes trembled. He had a pained expression. He held the sword in one hand and covered his head with the other. Before, he was a mass of black mist without consciousness. Now, he had some consciousness. But some memories, even if they were vague, were still painful when they were mentioned. Ning Shu took advantage of this opportunity and swung the whip. With a majestic force, she whipped the Grand Elder's body. The slap sounded as if it could break his body, but his body swayed. He covered his head in pain. The black patterns on his face spread and disappeared. But he still held the sword and fought with Ning Shu. Ning Shu burst out with even more power. The whip only touched the Grand Elder, and his face was pained. Ning Shu didn't know what kind of power could cause harm to the Grand Elder's body. In the past, no matter how she fought the Grand Elder, using all kinds of methods and taking out all kinds of weapons, she couldn't hurt him. But this kind of power could actually cause a direct impact on an existence like the Grand Elder. Since it could, Ning Shu was even more vicious. The tail of the whip swept across the Grand Elder's face, leaving a deep whip mark on half of his face. His white cheekbones were visible and dark red blood flowed out. Why didn't half of her head get beaten off? She didn't even have a head. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3827. The Grand Elder seemed to be stunned. He stood motionless, and the black gas all over his body was taken back. He raised his sword to block the whip and raised his head. His eyes were clear, and half of his face was stained with blood, giving him a sense of coldness. Enough! Who was the one who had enough? The Grand Elder was the Grand Elder now. Ning Shu tilted his head and looked at him. Are you a human or a ghost now? Then he raised the whip and lashed out. The Grand Elder's eyes were cold, like an arrow quenched in ice. He grabbed the god-beating whip, wrapped it around his hand, and pulled with all his strength. Ning Shu firmly held the god-beating whip and stood opposite the Grand Elder. Both of them pulled the god-beating whip with all their strength. The god-beating whip Fation couldn't stand it anymore. Fuck, why are you pulling me? I'm in pain too. Especially since both of them were using their strength. Sang Liang closed the book and walked over. I'll count to 3. Both of you let go at the same time. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Was this a matter of letting go or not? Sang Liang said, 1, 2, 3. The Grand Elder let go of his hand expressionlessly. With the blood on his face, he looked like a ghost. The Grand Elder's joints were distinct, and his pale hand let go of the god-beating whip. Ning Shu glanced at him, took back the whip, and wrapped it around his waist. He looked at Sang Liang and the Grand Elder indifferently. She said calmly, I don't feel safe in this organization. I'm sorry, I have to leave. Ning Shu wasn't even angry. She was extremely calm, extremely calm. At first, Ning Shu felt that he might explode with anger, but now he wasn't angry at all. Probably when faced with it, there was nothing to be angry about. Since joining this organization, she had probably never felt safe. Her whole person was sharp, like a bird startled by the twang of a bow. No matter what she did, she had too many misgivings. No matter what she did, it was all wrong because she was weak. People admired the strong and pitied the weak. The more they respected the strong, the more cruel they were to the weak. When the weak encountered misfortune, it was even the fault of the weak. There was no reason to talk about it. Humans were probably strong for the sake of reason. Just think of it as the official casually throwing it to a mission enforcer, and the enforcer just had to be unlucky. But time and time again, if they really couldn't break free, even death wouldn't let some people get what they wanted. Sang Liang's expression did not change as he said, You still have several hundred years of work to do. Even if you want to leave, you should complete the transaction. Once the transaction is completed, you can leave. But before the transaction is completed, you can't leave. You have to respect the spirit of the contract. Ning Shu frowned. Then they would have to stay here for a few hundred years. Could it be that this matter was over? Ning Shu couldn't swallow this anger in his heart. Tian transformed into his human form, took out the wooden tablet from his meson space, and handed it over. I don't want this anymore, so the contract doesn't exist anymore. Ning Shu frowned. But without this token, how could he go to the Holy Land? Tian still had to go to the Cubs. Otherwise, how could he comprehend the divine patterns? Ning Shu looked at Tian worriedly. Tian pulled Ning Shu's hand and squeezed Ning Shu's hand, indicating that Ning Shu didn't need to worry. Ning Shu nodded. Okay, I don't want this thing. Sang Liang looked at Ning Shu and shook his head. This is a transaction. Whether you want this thing or not, how you want to deal with it is your business. But this transaction doesn't mean that if you return this thing to us, the transaction will be over. Don't be so childish. A transaction is a transaction. Ning Shu nodded and stuffed the wooden tablet back into Tian's hand. Keep it. Tian was very unhappy. This meant that Ning Shu would have to stay here for several hundred years. In fact, he didn't need this thing anymore. In fact, this wooden tablet was taken from the old man. Rather than saying that the Holy Land was moving, it was more accurate to say that the old man was moving. The Grand Elder, who had been silent, said, "Return the soul power to her." He turned around and walked away. The blood on his face had already congealed into a dark red color, making half of his face look like a ghost. His white cheekbones were faintly discernible in the broken flesh. His figure became farther and farther away, and finally, he turned into a black dot and disappeared. Ning Shu retracted his gaze and looked at Sang Liang. My loss wasn't just a bit of soul power. It was also mental damage. If I didn't have the ability to protect myself today, I would have died. Just a bit of soul power. Sang Liang said, you were able to survive because of your ability. Naturally, you will compensate you. If you didn't survive, then so what? Only the living have the right to stand here and speak. Ning Shu brushed his hair. So, I still have to thank myself. Sang Liang turned and left. Tian curled his lips and said, you're going to stay here for a long time. Ning Shu spread out her hands and said, this time, it's all out in the open. When we made the deal, I was the one who asked for it. Now that the deal is done, we can leave without any worries. Tian nodded. Then let's go back. Ning Shu said, I can't walk. I don't have any strength at all. Ning Shu was extremely weak now. Her soul power had been gnawed away, and with the inexplicable huge power attacking her soul was now so weak that it could be broken with a poke. Therefore, after the battle, Ning Shu chose to deal with this matter calmly. Tian said, let me carry you. Ning Shu shook her head. Her soul was weak now. Tian's hands and body could directly penetrate her soul and walk slowly. As for the star stone, there was no way to deal with it. A feeling of incomparable weakness attacked her soul. She had used too much strength, and the sequela was continuous weakness. At this time, if the Taishu and Sang Liang came back, she would definitely die. Ning Shu asked, where did the power in my body come from? He had never seen this kind of power before. It actually had the power to fight the Taishu. However, it seemed that this power couldn't last long and was extremely weak after using it. Very weak. Where did it come from? Tian touched his chin and pondered. Suddenly, he said with a look of realization, maybe it's the power of faith given by the peerless martial arts. Didn't you spend half of your soul tied to the peerless martial arts? Ning Shu thought about it carefully and felt that it was true. Other than that, there was no other source of power. It seemed that he had to provide more power of faith to the peerless martial arts so that he could also provide strength. In the future, he would give a peerless martial arts book to everyone he met. Come, practice the peerless martial arts to strengthen your body. If you're sick, you'll be cured. If you're not, you'll be strengthened. Back in the system space, Ning Shu sat gently on the sofa. Damn, his butt hurt. He felt like it was going to split open when he touched something. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3828. Her soul was so weak that she couldn't do anything. Ning Shu opened the chat system and asked Sang Liang to return the soul power to her. Was it for nothing? She should compensate for it. Sang Liang didn't say anything and directly sent over a bottle of pure soul power. Ning Shu picked up the bottle and was about to drink it when Fa Tian stopped Ning Shu. Wait. Ning Shu, wait for what? She was very empty now. If she didn't get some soul power to enrich herself, she might dissipate at any time. After the powerful impact, she didn't feel good. Fa Tian looked at the bottle. Do you really want to drink it? A question mark appeared on Ning Shu's head. She asked in return, why not? This was something she deserved. Tian said helplessly, aren't you afraid that they will tamper with the soul power? Tamper with it? What do they want from me? Do they want to use heartbreak powder or 3-corpse brain pill to force me to hand over the peerless martial arts? Jing Qing wanted to swallow her because of her vitality. What Jing Qing lacked was also what Tai Shu needed. Ning Shu nodded. I think what you said makes sense. She agreed with a smile on her face. Fa Tian was speechless. Although I don't know what you are talking about, it's obviously very low level. If they tamper with the soul power, you will be controlled. Ning Shu, not to that extent. Whatever this organization did, it was an open conspiracy. They only did conspiracies when they weren't strong enough. Fadian looked at Ning Shu and said, don't forget that you slapped his face until it's broken. In addition to his face, there were probably mottled scars on his body. After all, he had been whipped like a storm. The scars on his body were covered by his clothes, so they were probably only a little better than the scars on his face. Ning Shu. He even bit my head off. If she had to count it that way, she was also hurt. Moreover, there was a serious psychological trauma. How could he think of so many things when he was fighting for his life? If she didn't resist, she would be bitten off bit by bit. It was really like an apple being chewed, bite by bite, and it was incomparably terrifying. Ning Shu felt weak all over. Most of it was because of the impact and the bite, but a small part of it was because he was scared. He nearly believed that he was going to die. Although he appeared calm on the surface, he was panicking inwardly. However, even if Sang Liang and the others had tampered with his spiritual strength, so what? Ning Shu still wanted to absorb it. Fa Tian took the bottle and looked at it carefully. Ning Shu asked, did you see anything? Fa Tian shook his head. Maybe it's because I'm not strong enough that I can't see anything. You can use it. Ning Shu gulped down all the soul power in one breath. After drinking it, his soul was no longer as weak as before. However, it still hadn't returned to its previous state. In addition to the head that had been bitten off by the Grand Elder, there was also the soul power consumed by the impact of the power. Damn it, when would it stabilize? Her soul power was really an uncertain variable that could change at any time. Ning Shu touched her chest. She had stuffed the peerless martial art into it. Now, this thing was even more important to her. In the past, she couldn't bear to part with it. Now, she couldn't bear to part with it. Moreover, this thing could only provide her with a little power. It would come in waves, and after using it, she would be extremely weak. However, at least she had the power to protect herself in times of danger. Ning Shu patted her chest. The peerless martial art was really reliable. After yawning, Ning Shu said to Fa Tian, I'm tired. I want to sleep for a while. Are you going back to the Holy Land or, Han said, go to sleep. I'm going back to the Holy Land. His brows were tightly knitted. I realize that we are really weak. When Ning Shu was tied up, he couldn't do anything as he watched from the side. That feeling was really too powerless. He hated himself in his heart. Why was he so weak and powerless? Ning Shu nodded. Okay, don't push yourself too hard. Your starting point is already very high. Calm down. This was something that couldn't be avoided. It had to be faced directly. This was like the gap between the rich and the poor. Some people were born with something that others couldn't have in their lifetime. Some people worked hard all their lives and couldn't get what they wanted. One could only look at hard work. Fa Tian's conditions were better than many people's. Even compared to the void creatures, he had talent. Tian said, I know. I'm still so young. Some people are already old. They can exhaust themselves to death. Ning Shu's mouth twitched. He was a little speechless. Fa Tian took out the wooden token. It was the token to go to the Holy Land. He said, "Keep this for yourself. I have a way to go to the Holy Land. You can come to the Holy Land to see me if you want. Come to the Holy Land when you're free. Maybe the old man will let you stay." Ning Shu took the wooden token and accepted it with a smile. He felt that Fa Tian's mind was becoming more and more mature. He was also becoming more and more thoughtful when thinking about things. However, he was still this small. Ever since he could transform into a human, Fa Tian's body had almost never grown. Until now, he was still this big. However, his mind was maturing, but his body wasn't. It felt like an old soul was stuffed into a weak body. He was clearly a child, but he was very mature. It was strange no matter how one looked at it. Ning Shu asked, "Are you lacking energy? Otherwise, why won't your body grow old?" Tian said, "The heavens are fair. It takes a long time to grow. Even if there is enough energy, it won't grow if there is not enough time. The growth cycle of a cub is long." Ning Shu. There is a price. The heavens are fair? Why did it sound like he was showing off? Living a long life meant having a long growth cycle. A pig would get fat in a year. Ning Shu said, "Oh, I thought you didn't grow because you lacked energy. It was quite distressing. I originally planned to find energy for you, but I didn't expect this to be the reason. Then I'm relieved." Fa Tian was speechless. After Fa Tian left, Ning Shu lay on the sofa to rest and calm down. He was a little scared but also very excited. He was excited because he had the power to fight against the Taishu. Although this battle was a little bit of an advantage, the Taishu at that time was an ignorant Taishu who followed his instincts. The Taishu would definitely fight for his body. He probably didn't even use half of his strength, but the energy provided by the peerless martial arts could hurt the Taishu and cause substantial damage. This was a very happy moment. This meant that if he used this power, he could also cause damage to the Void's strong and huge body. He felt that this power was on par with the Void's creature. Previously, all his methods were like mosquitoes sucking blood. They didn't have much effect on the Void's creature. It was like scratching an itch. If it was annoyed, it could kill him with a slap. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3829. With this kind of power, she could change her physique and strengthen it to be able to withstand this kind of power. She wouldn't become a weak, sick cat every time she showed off her power. Well, what could change her physique? Forget about the emperor grandeur. Now that she was tied to the peerless martial art, if the peerless martial art was sucked away, she wouldn't even have a place to cry. Ning Shu fell into a deep sleep with all kinds of thoughts in her mind. She had a smile on her face. Obviously, she had a good dream. After waking up, Ning Shu felt refreshed. Although her soul wasn't as strong as before, Ning Shu's expression was completely different from before. Her face was brighter. Money and power were confidence. As long as she had enough power, she would have confidence. The depression that she had been suppressing had also dissipated a lot. This confrontation had a special meaning for Ning Shu. It wasn't the feeling of being forced into a corner and unable to do anything. It was no longer a fight of a trapped beast. Now, she could fight back and had the power to fight back. There was also a feeling of seeing hope. Maybe it was a change in her mentality. The weak and thin Ning Shu seemed to have grown taller. She had an aura of 2.8 meters. She had an aura, confidence, and capital. Although it was just a sign, it was enough to change Ning Shu's mentality. Ning Shu stretched. Her clothes began to change. They became purple like the starry sky. It was dotted with stars. As she walked, there was a flow of light. Purple was mysterious and noble. Ning Shu lifted her skirt and looked at herself in the mirror. The color of the clothes was more suitable for her skin, especially her skin. Just pretty. Ning Shu admired herself in the mirror. She was beautiful and good-looking. Who was such a beautiful person? As expected, beautiful things could make people happy. When she had just entered the mission, she was really weak. She had allocated the necessary attribute points to survival skills. Otherwise, she could have allocated some attribute points to charm. She didn't want to charm others. She only wanted to make herself happy. Ning Shu entered the Nine Palace Mountain. Since the Nine Palace Mountain had encountered such a thing, she needed to understand the situation in the world. The first layer was the world of samsara, and the second layer had the earthworm and the others. First, he went to the second level. The moment Ning Shu entered the second level, he felt a turbid air tumble. It was like after an earthquake, the turbid air in the earth's crust rose up. In short, the air was very turbid. Sure enough, it has an effect on the world. Ning Shu used his mental power to scan the world and found that the world seems to have been shaken by a huge force and is already in a mess. If the world on the second level was like this, then the other worlds must be like this as well. Ning Shu arrived at the thatched hut. The hut had already collapsed, and Lady Yao and the others were in the midst of repairing it. Since the last time he saw Yao Nyang, Ning Shu felt that Yao Nyang had grown up a little. Previously, she was still a 15-year-old girl, but now, she was already 19. She had grown up well. It was curvaceous. Ning Shu silently stared at Yao Nyang's chest for a while before lowering his head to look at his own chest. Perhaps the fashion was to have a small chest and a flat chest. Han Shen was in charge of handling the wood while Yao Nyang poured water for him. Occasionally, she would wipe the sweat off his forehead. Ning Shu, he smelled the sour smell of love. Ning Shu coughed and walked over. When Yao Nyang saw Ning Shu, she immediately retracted her hand that was wiping her sweat and shouted, "Auntie, why are you here?" Ning Shu glanced at Han Shen. Being swept by her light gaze, Han Shen felt a chill all over his body. He lowered his head and used a plane to cut the wood, not daring to meet Ning Shu's gaze. Ning Shu saw Han Shen's guilty look and her mood instantly turned bad. Could it be that he took advantage of Yao Nyang? Yao Nyang came out of her stomach after all. If Han Shen didn't promise Yao Nyang and took advantage of Yao Nyang, Ning Shu felt that it might be a little unbearable. She couldn't imagine what the consequences would be. Seeing Ning Shu staring at Han Shen, Yao Nyang reached out and pulled Ning Shu's hand. She said, "Auntie, go in and drink some water." Ning Shu looked at Han Shen's back and made a gun gesture with her hand. "But, you're dead, young man." Yao Nyang. The earthworm came back with a branch. When he saw Ning Shu, the first thing he asked was, "What's going on?" The world suddenly shook so violently that people were almost sent flying into the sky. The sun and the moon were reversed. Now the whole world is in a mess. Many places have been submerged by the sea. It was a mess. The world was in a mess. The stable situation had been destroyed. Some countries had even disintegrated and perished because of this incident. The whole world was now like hell. It was extremely chaotic. Ning Shu said, "Something happened to cause this accident. It's unavoidable." If Jiogong Mountain was allowed to stay in the world of reincarnation, Jiogong Mountain and the world of reincarnation would affect each other and eventually explode. Take your time to recuperate. Things will recover after a while. The world that was united for a long time must be divided, and divided for a long time must be united. However, there were always some people who liked to take advantage of the chaos. The more chaotic the situation was, the better for them. Some forces took advantage of this situation to grow stronger. The earthworm asked, "So, this turmoil has something to do with you?" Ning Shu nodded, "Yes, but it's for the entire Nine Palace Mountain." He even spent tens of millions of merit points to buy star stones. For Nine Palace Mountain, it was a blow. For Ning Shu, it was also a huge loss. Ning Shu had never spent tens of millions of merit points on himself. Merit points were worldly possessions like money. However, without these worldly possessions, nothing could be done. Therefore, merit points were a good thing. Otherwise, he wouldn't be listening to the earthworm's chatter. Ning Shu felt that if the world on the second level was so serious, then the world above was even worse, especially the world in the crack. The crack on Nine Palace Mountain extended from the top to the bottom. The crack hadn't spread to the second level yet. The earthworm put down the wood and quickly slipped into the depths of the mountain. After a while, he dragged some prey back and planned to cook. "We'll roast meat today. Recently, the water has been turbid. Some poisonous substances have been churned out." Ning Shu didn't have any objections. Seeing that Ning Shu had something to say to his uncle, Yao Nyang went out of the kitchen to help saw the wood. Ning Shu asked the earthworm, "Are Yao Nyang and Han Chen together?" The earthworm said carelessly, "They've always been together." Ning Shu glanced at the earthworm. How insensitive was it? Two children were flirting right under its nose. Didn't it feel anything? Did earthworms have no feelings? Ning Shu, yes, I'm talking about the kind of human couples. The kind that has an intimate relationship. The earthworm reacted, "Holy shit, does that mean they're going to reproduce?" To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3830. The earthworm roared, causing dust to fall from the roof that was already on the verge of collapse. He twisted his body and rushed out of the kitchen. He swam to Han Chen's side and swung his tail, sending Han Chen flying. Han Chen was caught off guard and was flung far away. He fell heavily to the ground. He picked up a lot of dust. Yao Nyang stared at the earthworm with her mouth agape. Han Chen got up from the ground and cupped his hands. "Senior, you," the earthworm snorted. "Heh, what kind of price can a kid like you pay for reproduction?" Many creatures paid the price of their lives for reproduction. Even humans might have to give their lives for love. The essence of love is reproduction. Yao Nyang, Han Chen. The two of them turned to look at Ning Shu, who was standing at the kitchen door. Ning Shu had his arms crossed and his chin slightly raised, looking like he was watching a show. Yao Nyang walked over and called out softly. Of course, she knew that it was her aunt who said it. After all, her uncle didn't notice it before and didn't think in this direction. When her aunt came, it was as if her uncle's conception and governing vessels had been opened up. She must have reminded him. Ning Shu nodded and asked, "How far have you developed?" Yao Nyang blushed. "Actually, there hasn't been any development. Han Chen hasn't expressed any special feelings for me. It seems like it's my wishful thinking." On the other side, the earthworm pressed down on Han Chen and asked through gritted teeth, "Speak, have you reproduced? Tell me honestly." Han Chen's face was on the ground. He tilted his head and said awkwardly, "Senior, I didn't do anything improper to Miss Yao Nyang. I didn't." The earthworm sneered. "I don't care if you did anything improper. I'm just asking if you've reproduced." Han Chen, feeling the earthworm's fat body pressing down on him, Han Chen felt very disgusted. He hurriedly defended himself. "No, I haven't reproduced." Yao Nyang was so embarrassed that she was about to explode. She pulled the earthworm and said, "Uncle, we didn't do anything. You're thinking too much." The earthworm nodded. Then he asked in disbelief, "Really?" Yao Nyang nodded with a pale face. Ning Shu slapped his forehead, not knowing what to say. The earthworm really had a bad temper. The earthworm pointed at Han Chen with his tail. "Kid, you better be careful." Han Chen. Yao Nyang helped Han Chen up and patted the dust off his clothes. "That's my uncle's temper," she said. Han Chen didn't mind it too much and merely nodded. Faced with Yao Nyang's beautiful face and the two elders glaring at him, Han Chen averted his gaze. Earthworm had just hit someone, and now he was telling Han Chen to do more work. "Before we eat, hurry up and dig out the wood." Probably because it knew that the two of them were showing signs of reproduction, it was as if the earthworm was looking at its son-in-law. The more it looked, the more it disliked it. Han Chen didn't intend to go against earthworm. If earthworm said so, then so be it. Yao Nyang's expression was dejected as she placed the roasted meat over the fire. Clearly, the earthworm had pointed out some things, but Han Chen didn't say anything. His silence made Yao Nyang a little unhappy. This meant that Han Chen didn't have such thoughts. Otherwise, he would have worked hard to show off. Ning Shu sat down beside Yao Nyang. Yao Nyang was already a grown woman. Which young girl wouldn't yearn for love? As she grew older, it was only natural for her to have such thoughts. The body's hormones also promote certain behaviors. Yao Nyang was already a grown woman, so it was normal for her to have such thoughts and behaviors. After interacting with a boy for a long time, it was inevitable that feelings would develop. There was only one person, an earthworm. Was earthworm even human? They were of different races, so he couldn't even be considered a human. Furthermore, he was an elder, so he was directly excluded. In this place, only Han Chen and Yao Nyang were suitable in terms of age, appearance, and strength. As for Yao Nyang's future life, Ning Shu didn't intend to interfere too much. No matter who she ended up with, he would still give her some advice if he could. However, if she didn't listen, Ning Shu didn't intend to interfere either. Ning Shu was about to speak when Yao Nyang spoke first. She said to Ning Shu, "Auntie, I plan to go out for a walk. It's very chaotic out there right now, and some evil forces are bewitching ordinary people. They say that the world is about to be destroyed, and that we can only survive by joining some organization. I plan to go out for a walk." Ning Shu nodded. "Sure. Go out and take a look. In a chaotic world, all kinds of demons and monsters would appear. Ordinary people without any strength would be terrified and uneasy. When their minds were at their weakest, they would naturally be bewitched by others. Moreover, in such a chaotic world, without any spiritual sustenance, it would be especially easy to bewitch people if they had spiritual sustenance. Those rising factions saw this as a point. It would be a bit difficult for Yao Nyang to go out and eliminate these evil forces. Putting aside the fact that Yao Nyang was alone, those deceived ordinary people would spontaneously protect such organizations. They might even treat the people who saved them as evil, coming to destroy their peaceful lives and destroy their beliefs. Of course, Ning Shu wouldn't say these things. He would let Yao Nyang experience it for herself. What you think is right might not be what others want. Ning Shu glanced at Han Chen and asked, "Are you going alone?" Yao Nyang pouted, looking a bit angry. "Han Chen is coming too." Ning Shu nodded. It was good for the two of them to take care of each other. Lady Yao gave a portion of the roasted meat to Ning Shu and Earthworm. In the end, she unwillingly gave a portion to Han Chen. She heavily stuffed a portion into Han Chen's hands. Han Chen looked at Yao Nyang in surprise. Yao Nyang directly rolled her eyes. Han Chen was a bit depressed. He gnawed on the meat and said to Yao Nyang, "Yao Nyang, if I did anything wrong, you can tell me. Tell me in front of everyone. I'll change. I promise I'll change." Han Chen's expression was as sincere as it could be. Ning Shu and Earthworm both turned to look at Yao Nyang. Yao Nyang's face was green and red. She was so angry that she almost choked. "I'm not angry. You didn't do anything wrong." That meant there was no misunderstanding. Han Chen let out a sigh of relief. He really was under a lot of pressure. Furthermore, Han Chen really didn't know how he had angered Yao Nyang. Hearing Yao Nyang say she wasn't angry, Han Chen didn't take it to heart. Yao Nyang was so angry that she almost fainted. A mouthful of meat was stuck in her throat. She almost died on the spot. She rolled her eyes and decided to ignore him for a month. Ning Shu saw that Han Chen really didn't care about anything. The heartless Han Chen who chewed on the meat was also quite straightforward. Sometimes, if you don't make it clear, people won't understand what you mean. If you keep it in your heart, who knows what you're thinking? It's impossible to guess. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to Chapter 38-31. Out of sight, out of mind, Yao Nyang turned around and entered her room. Han Chen also told the earthworm about his plans to leave the mountain and go with Yao Nyang. The earthworm was very sensitive now. "You're going to take Yao Nyang out to breed and avoid me." Han Chen's expression was a little frightened, but also a little helpless. "Why did you bring up such a shameful thing with such an expressionless face?" He waved his hand and said, "Then I'll go alone. I won't take Yao Nyang with me. The outside world is very dangerous. I'll go explore first." It could be said that he had a strong desire to live. With a bang, Yao Nyang kicked open the door and said coldly, "What? You're the only one allowed to go out, but I'm not? You go your way and I'll go mine. We'll go our separate ways. Who wants to go with you?" Once a girl had any special feelings for a boy, she would become sensitive and unreasonable. "Han Chen, that's not good. It's not safe for you to go out alone." Han Chen said truthfully. Did Yao Nyang want to listen to Han Chen's reasoning? She sneered and looked at Han Chen with an unfriendly gaze. "Are you mocking me for being weak? I can't even guarantee my safety if I don't go with you? Han Chen, that's not what I meant. I'm saying that the outside world is so chaotic. Human nature is twisted, and morality is depraved. It's not safe for a girl like you to go out alone. Without any restrictions, they could do whatever they wanted. Humans were capable of doing anything. Many people were unscrupulous. Many people took over a mountain and used all kinds of methods. Yao Nyang was just a girl who stayed in the mountains. How could she have seen such things? People from the same sect were all scheming against each other. Yao Nyang looked at Han Chen. You don't need to worry. Why don't we have a fight? Let's see who's stronger. Yao Nyang's tit-for-tat with Han Chen left him speechless. Han Chen had a helpless look on his face. Yao Nyang snorted, slammed the door, and entered the room. The house, which was on the verge of collapse, shook twice. Ning Shu gnawed on the barbecued meat and looked at Yao Nyang and Han Chen. The two of them seemed to be opposing each other, but they were actually flirting. Han Chen was helpless. The earthworm said, "As long as you don't breed with Yao Nyang behind my back, I'll allow you to go out." "No, I want to go with you." Han Chen didn't know what to say. His face was numb, and he couldn't deny it. Why did he have to be so direct? Why did he have to reply in such a manner? Inside the room, Yao Nyang snorted. Han Chen Ning Shu asked, "Senior Hong Yi, are you going as well?" He felt that every time there was chaos, the red-clothed demoness would appear. The name of the red-clothed demoness was enough to make many people who had heard of this name flee in panic. Even if they didn't flee, they would lose their drive to accumulate points during the battle. Ning Shu shook his head. "I'm not going. I still have other things to do. Take good care of Yao Nyang. I don't care how you feel about her, but when it's time to act, you should act. Even if you don't have any special feelings for each other, you should at least have some kinship." Han Chen solemnly said, "I know. Senior, please don't worry. I will take good care of Yao Nyang and not let her come to any harm." He didn't know what kind of meat he ate last time, but he heard that it was bird meat. After eating it, his whole body felt warm, as if he was being roasted in a furnace. After that, his pores overflowed with grease and dirt. The dirt in his meridians were all shaved out, and his cultivation sped up a little. Both his and Yao Nyang's strength had greatly increased. He believed that he would be able to protect Yao Nyang when they went out. Yao Nyang smiled, but she seemed to feel that it wasn't good to forgive him so easily. She stomped her feet, and an angry yet sweet expression appeared on her face. Ning Shu put down the barbecued meat. It really didn't taste good at all. When he walked into the room, Yao Nyang stood up and called out, "Auntie." She was a little embarrassed. Some things could be hidden from the careless earthworm, but not from her auntie. Ning Shu took out a weapon, a white sword. "This is the weapon I gave you. It can be used for self-defense. If you encounter any danger, don't take it head-on. Run first. I can tell that Han Chen isn't the kind of person who would abandon you and run away alone. However, you still have to work hard. Everyone will get tired." Yao Nyang solemnly accepted the sword and nodded. "I understand. Thank you, Auntie." Ning Shu thought for a moment, then said, "When you go out, help me spread the word about my peerless martial art. It can allow people to cultivate it." Yao Nyang was stunned. She tilted her head and asked, "Auntie, do you also want to establish a faction? Otherwise, why would you spread the mantra of your peerless martial art?" Yao Nyang's current peerless martial art allowed her to transform. Her strength could be considered quite high. Ning Shu shook his head. "I don't want to establish a faction. I just want people to cultivate my peerless martial art. It's beneficial to me." She wanted to provide the peerless martial art with more power of faith, and the peerless martial art would provide her with more power. If she spread the net wide, there might be people who could cultivate it. She could provide the peerless martial art with more power of faith. Yao Nyang nodded. "I understand. If there's someone suitable for the peerless martial art, I'll spread the news." It's just that, Ning Shu knew what Yao Nyang was worried about. He said, "Although cultivating the peerless martial art is more powerful, it also depends on the transformation. That's how powerful a person's qi gene is. If someone transformed into a pig, other than being a little fatter and more resistant to beatings, their qi gene wouldn't be as aggressive as a sword or saber. Yao Nyang smiled and nodded. Trust me, I'll do it well. Ning Shu told Yao Nyang to be careful and to act according to the situation. She shouldn't act rashly and act like a hero without understanding the situation. She should listen to the earthworm and Han Chen more. Yao Nyang curled her lips. Listening to the earthworm wasn't wrong, but why did she have to listen to Han Chen? Ning Shu left the room and said to the earthworm, I'm leaving. I'll come back when I'm free. The earthworm said, bring more meat next time. I feel different after eating that thing. The bird meat you're talking about? I'll bring more for you next time. Although the bird couldn't defeat Fodder, it was still a creature of the void. The power contained in its body wasn't something an ordinary creature of the world could possess. Fodder ate it. Other than being able to satisfy his hunger, it didn't have any other power. Since it was beneficial to the earthworm, he would give it more. Perhaps it could change the earthworm's physique. Unfortunately, in the void, there wasn't anything that could change her soul physique and make her tougher. Ning Shu looked at Han Chen, who was silent and didn't have much of a presence, and casually handed him a weapon. Since he asked someone to take care of Yao Nyang, he had to give him some benefits. Help me take good care of Yao Nyang. If necessary, you can knock her out and take her away. Yao Nyang. Han Chen touched the cold bow. The bow was emitting white smoke, and it was incomparably cold in his hand. It was compatible with his attribute. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 38-32. Han Chen cultivated a peerless martial art that allowed him to transform into an ice flower. Who would have thought that a boy like him would transform into a flower? No matter how one looked at it, it was strange. Even Yao Nyang's transformation was more manly than his. How should one describe this? Could it be that his heart was so gentle and delicate? Now that he had an ice attribute bow, it was like sending charcoal in the snow for Han Chen. Han Chen didn't want to attack with a flower in his hand at all. Just the thought of it made him shudder. Holding the bow, Han Chen repeatedly promised Ning Shu that he would protect Yao Nyang well. Yao Nyang giggled as she listened. Her face was flushed red, making her look like a peach blossom. Ning Shu disappeared in an instant. Han Chen raised his head. Just as he was about to speak, he realized that Ning Shu had already disappeared. Han Chen sighed and said to the earthworm, Senior is even more powerful now. With a whoosh, he disappeared. Most people wouldn't be able to move this fast. In any case, Han Chen felt that it was impossible for him to reach this level of speed and strength. Han Chen fondled the bow lovingly. Yao Nyang walked out with a sword in her hand. I'm telling you now. Since you've accepted my aunt's gift, you have to protect me well. Don't ask me to protect you when the time comes. Yao Nyang paused for a moment. It's not like I can't protect you. Forget it, I'll protect you. Yao Nyang patted her chest and said, I've been working hard on my cultivation. Who knows, I might even be stronger than you. Han Chen didn't deny it. All right, you protect me. It wasn't up to them to decide who would protect who. They would talk about it when the time came. Ning Shu arrived at the third level. The situation was similar to the second level. It was a mess and had suffered heavy losses. This kind of situation could only be stabilized with time. Ning Shu didn't stop and entered the fourth level. The situation on the fourth level was much worse. With Ning Shu's mental power, he could see a scar in the corner of the world. In the middle of the scar was a white substance. It was clearly a star stone. Ning Shu frowned. A lot of the vitality in this world had disappeared. As a direct result, the greenery in this world had decreased, and some trees had begun to wither. It was unknown when the life force would be restored. A scar ran across the surface of the world. Compared to the world on the second level, the people in this world were truly struggling. Ning Shu raised his hand and looked at the law of wood imprint. Vines stretched out, and the green vines extended and pierced into the ground. Waves of vitality were injected into the ground. He couldn't do anything else. Upon entering the fifth level, the entire world was a barren wasteland. There was no greenery at all, only a thick gray color. As far as the eye could see, there was not a single person, not even a trace of human habitation. Other than some building fragments, even the buildings were not as big as individual buildings. They were all fragmented. It was as if the whole world had been turned upside down. Almost all the creatures here had been wiped out. Perhaps there were still other creatures in some places. The worlds above were all like this, and some of the world cracks were relatively large. The life force of the entire world seemed to have dissipated. It was a wasteland. The worlds above the 5th level were all wiped out. He didn't know if the reincarnation passage to the living world was broken when the life force dissipated. But even if it was broken, it wouldn't have much of an effect, because there were no more living creatures in the living world. But perhaps there were still living creatures under the surface. Hence, he still needed to connect to the reincarnation world. Ning Shu checked the connection and realized that the passage between two worlds was broken. In such a situation, he naturally needed to connect. Returning to the reincarnation world, the first level was extremely crowded. Originally, the first level was shared with the reincarnation world. Now that they were separated, the area was smaller. In addition, there were no more living creatures in the living world. The souls came to the reincarnation world through the passage. It was too crowded. 9 Palace Mountain was already in tatters. If it was so crowded, it might really explode. What should he do in such a situation? Of course, he had to call the little demon. The little demon's stomach was the transportation tool. Actually, he didn't need to trouble the little demon, but he had to do it one by one. He couldn't absorb the souls directly like the little demon. The main thing was that there were so many souls. He couldn't stuff them one by one into the mess in space. When the little demon rushed over, she didn't look worried. Ning Shu asked, "I heard that you are autistic." The little demon was expressionless. "Who is autistic? Why are you looking for me?" Ning Shu told the little demon to send a portion of the souls to the other reincarnation worlds. Otherwise, it would be too crowded. The little demon couldn't help but say, "Can you say it in one go and let people run twice?" Ning Shu said, "I didn't know that it would be so crowded here. Go on." The little demon turned her back to Ning Shu and started to absorb the souls. Ning Shu stared at the little demon's tail. He felt a little itchy and wanted to touch it. If he really touched it, the little demon would definitely fall out with him. "Harry, yeah?" Ning Shu stretched out his evil hand. Before he touched the little demon's tail, the little demon turned around and wiped the corners of her mouth. Seeing Ning Shu's action, her eyes narrowed and almost became vertical lines. She looked at Ning Shu as if she was facing a great enemy. "What are you doing?" Ning Shu immediately put his hand behind his back and said with a smile, "Nothing. Your tail is stained with mud." The little demon snorted. "Don't think that I don't know what you want to do. You want to touch my tail? Dream on. My tail is not something you can touch." Ning Shu asked, "Then who do you want to give it to? Who can touch your tail? Abyssal Prefect? Could it be that the Abyssal Prefect would hold the little demon in his arms and stroke her like a cat?" The scene was very ambiguous. Ning Shu didn't dare to think about it. The little demon rolled her eyes. "It's none of your business." Ning Shu curled his lips. "I don't care what you want to do. If there is a problem, it's fine as long as I can find you." Ning Shu and the little demon scattered their souls in several reincarnation worlds. If they were placed in only one reincarnation world, the pressure would be too great. There were many souls in these worlds. After finishing her business, the little demon sized up Ning Shu and said, "Your strength has increased a little. You are a little stronger than before." Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and asked, "How can you tell? Could it be that the word, weak chicken, was written on her face?" The little demon said, "You were very weak before. I don't like to talk to you." Ning Shu snorted. He saw a small white dot appear behind the little demon. In an instant, the white dot became bigger. It was a man wearing a white tuxedo. The white color was a little dazzling in this gray world. Even his shoes were white and shiny. It was really dazzling. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 38-33. A pocket watch with a golden chain was hanging on his chest. The pocket watch was in his chest pocket. Ning Shu was speechless. The white tuxedo and the pale face of His Excellency complemented each other. It was a horrible visual experience to see a charcoal head wearing a white tuxedo. An abyssal prefect's figure and looks were something that could be hidden by any kind of clothing. In the past, His Excellency was low-key and mysterious. The black tuxedo made him look cold and unapproachable. But when he wore the white tuxedo, it could be seen from afar. Such a move showed that His Excellency subconsciously wanted to attract people's attention. Only males in the courtship period would dress themselves up. They would show off as much as they could to attract people's attention. Ning Shu's expression became a bit meaningful. His Excellency's expression was still indifferent. He looked around the whole world of samsara and said, "Your world of samsara is so simple." Ning Shu accepted it humbly. "It's like this. I can't do anything for the time being. That's all I can do." It was a great honor to put down so many things in the world of samsara and come to this corner of her place. If you have something to do, you have to do it all at once. You don't have to run around. Ning Shu nodded. Yes, you're right." His Excellency looked at Ning Shu and frowned. He felt that her reaction was a bit strange, but he didn't think too much about it. He said, "He has entered the critical period of cultivation. If it's not something important, don't look for him." Ning Shu asked the little devil, "Is that so? You've entered the critical period?" He felt that His Excellency didn't want her to look for the little devil. After all, Ning Shu's ears were full of goosebumps. The little devil nodded. "Yes, if it goes well, I can stabilize my form." "If it fails?" Ning Shu hurriedly asked, "What will happen if it fails?" The little devil said, "I will probably stay in this form forever." Ning Shu said, "There's nothing wrong with this form. You'll be young forever." She was the dream of many women, forever young and beautiful. Imp and His Excellency glared at Ning Shu at the same time, and His Excellency said, "This also means that his strength is fixed, and there is no way for him to increase his strength. How can an adult's strength compare to a teenager's strength?" Ning Shu was silent for a moment before he said, "I see. Then do your best. What do you need? What energy do you need?" Transforming would definitely require energy. Ning Shu touched his pockets, wondering if he still had any energy bodies on him. "I've already prepared everything," the Abyssal Prefect replied. Ning Shu, "Good luck then." The Abyssal Prefect said, "Take a good look at this world and see if there's anything wrong with it. Don't call anyone else for the time being." Ning Shu nodded, "Sure, but I don't know what's wrong with the world of reincarnation." His Excellency glanced at her, his eyes filled with disdain. "Don't you know how to check? Maybe there are some worlds with huge problems." Abyssal Prefect, "From now on, even if there's a problem with the world and it's about to explode, don't call for help." Ning Shu was speechless. Her expression was a bit indescribable. Abyssal Prefect said, "If there's a problem, then solve it. If it can't be solved, then let nature take its course. Is it the doctor's fault if a person dies of cancer?" Ning Shu was speechless and began to check each world. The Abyssal Prefect and the little demon also followed. Ning Shu checked the worlds while paying attention to the Abyssal Prefect and the little demon. He was used to the Abyssal Prefect's black clothes, so when he looked at the white clothes again, he felt a bit strange. Moreover, the white clothes reflected a faint halo that surrounded the Abyssal Prefect, making him seem like a soft light. It was simply too dazzling. The young demon beside him was a head taller than the Abyssal Prefect. He walked casually, full of youthful vigor. When the two walked together, it always felt like there was a gap between them. The Abyssal Prefect was a strict elder who didn't smile at all. Perhaps when the little demon experienced the transformation this time, this feeling of gap between them would disappear. After checking all the worlds of reincarnation, Ning Shu asked, "Is there a problem with the world?" This was a world that had just been born, so there should be very few problems. The Abyssal Prefect nodded, "There's no problem." He turned to the little demon and said, "Let's go back." The little demon winked at Ning Shu. The Abyssal Prefect turned to the little demon and said, "Go back, or stay and play?" The little demon left with the Abyssal Prefect. Ning Shu was thinking, why is the little demon winking at me? Is there a hint? Ning Shu scratched his head. He was really confused. Forget it, let's not think about it. After solving the problem of Nine Palace Mountain and the world of reincarnation, he felt relaxed and happy. Ning Shu returned to the system space. The system notified him to go to the worlds to collect resources. Ning Shu? I'm so weak. I just dealt with the Star Stone. Ning Shu also planned to go to the sacred land. He had the wooden tablet in hand, so he could go to the cub's place to learn about the sacred runes. Didn't you absorb the soul power? Since you're leaving the organization, you should do what you need to do. Ning Shu sneered. I think it's because I'm free labor now, so you're ordering me around. The system said, what's the problem? Only a fool wouldn't order you around. Also, you said you're leaving here. Do you want me to sympathize with you? Wow, it made sense. He was speechless. It felt like they had shed all pretense of cordiality. Ning Shu said, I'm about to leave. Do you still expect me to be cautious and conscientious for the organization? This is a deal. If you do something that doesn't satisfy us, the deal will be cancelled. The wooden tablet will also be cancelled. As for your companions, they won't be able to find the sacred land. Ning Shu clicked his tongue and said to Dan Qing, I'm going to do missions now. The two big bosses were fighting. Dan Qing trembled and said, there are no missions now. Ning Shu, what about the backlog of missions from before? He said there were a lot of missions. Ning Shu didn't make things difficult for Dan Qing. He was going to leave missions in the future, but Dan Qing was going to stay in the organization. Dan Qing was just a branch system. It was too easy for a huge organization to crush her. Of course, it was also easy to crush her. Whether he could leave the organization or not depended on how much his strength could improve during this period of time. Ning Shu was hesitant about leaving the organization because he didn't have enough strength. He didn't know if he would really be free or if he would be free in the form of death. All the choices and hesitations were because he didn't have enough money or strength. Ning Shu went to the void and followed a group of people into a plane that was about to shatter. He collected the resources in the plane. When he landed in the same place as a big boss. The big boss said to Ning Shu, let's go together. Ning Shu looked at him and nodded. Chapter 38-34. Ning Shu didn't know this mission enforcer. Since he invited her, she immediately agreed. Ning Shu wasn't worried that other people would have bad intentions towards her. After all, she was arrogant and had the ability to deal with everything that happened. Along the way, the mission enforcer kept looking at Ning Shu. Ning Shu touched her face. Was he looking at her face? She knew that she had become good-looking. She was elated. When the man turned his head to peek at Ning Shu again, he happened to meet Ning Shu's eyes. He was stunned for a moment and quickly looked away. Ning Shu went straight to the point and asked, why are you looking at me? Is there something wrong with me? Was she too beautiful? He waved his hand and said, no, don't think too much. Ning Shu, I'm already thinking too much. If you have something to say, just say it. You're peeking at me again and again. Isn't it awkward? Ning Husu said directly. Mission enforcer, it wasn't awkward at first, but now that you said it, it was awkward. There's something I don't know if I should ask. The man's expression was a little hesitant. Ning Shu said firmly, you shouldn't ask. If you want to ask, just ask. Why are you talking about this? Mission enforcer, then I'll ask. I heard that you can leave the organization. Is this true? The man asked. Ning Shu's expression was a little shocked. What kind of speed was this? How long had it been? How did everyone know about it? Ning Shu couldn't help but look down and check her body. Were there a lot of listening devices on her body? This was too much. Mission enforcer, Ning Shu obviously denied this matter. Then she covered her mouth and giggled. Of course not. This is purely a rumor. How could there be such a thing? It's too ridiculous. Of course, she would deny such a secret. In this situation, Ning Shu had plans to resign. In the end, everyone in the company knew that she was going to resign. This feeling was really fucked up. The mission enforcer saw that Ning Shu denied it and said, this is actually not a big deal. I heard that you were able to leave this organization, and many people have asked you what method you used. Once you entered this organization, you would be a member of the organization in life and a ghost in death. There was no such thing as leaving. Therefore, when Ning Shu's incident came out, even if it was just a rumor, it caused a huge commotion. This organization only allowed people to enter and not leave. It was impossible to leave. Ning Shu still denied it. There's no such thing. But that kind of situation is just like a fit of pique. Do you really think I can leave? The man looked hesitant. That's unlikely. He looked at Ning Shu and thought about the huge organization. Finally, he shook his head. It's not possible. Ning Shu, yes. This matter was between her and the organization. It had nothing to do with anyone else. She didn't want to cause an uproar. Obviously, after this incident, the people's hearts wavered. If the organization directly detained her in the organization in order to stabilize the people's hearts, or even killed a chicken to warn the monkeys, then she would really be too wronged. This was something that was very likely to happen. If she was an uncontrollable variable, she would put herself in the shoes of others. If she was in the organization, she would also eliminate this uncontrollable variable. However, the sources of information and the extent of gossip in the organization deeply shocked Ning Shu. There was a feeling of no privacy. However, at the same time, people like Taishu Sangliang would definitely have countless eyes focused on them to infer or obtain information. Ning Shu asked indifferently. Many people asked if there were many people who wanted to leave the organization. Humans were social animals. When they really gathered together, they would think of ways to leave. The mission enforcer's expression didn't seem to care. He didn't notice that Ning Shu was expressionless, but his ears were pricked up. Yes, when you were weak, there was no way to leave. When you have a little strength, you want to be the master of the organization. You want to leave the springboard and jump to a higher place. He said it more bluntly. The organization was like a springboard. Borrowing the organization to gain strength, paying strength and labor, and gaining strength from the organization. It was like ordinary people. They worked to make money, and the money they earned could be used to buy the materials they needed to survive. When they reached a certain level, they wanted to jump to a better life and obtain more generous rewards. However, in reality, the people in the organization couldn't jump off the springboard and jump to another board because of their lack of strength. They were indignant and helpless. It was too real. The instrument in Ning Shu's hand made a beeping sound. Apparently, it had detected that there was metal or other resources under his feet. Ning Shu ended the topic and said, "Let's start collecting the materials now." The man's expression was a little hesitant. Apparently, he didn't get any accurate information from Ning Shu. However, he couldn't get any more information from Ning Shu. He just nodded and started collecting materials with Ning Shu. After collecting the mineral deposit, Ning Shu thought that the man would separate from him. However, he kept following him. It seemed that he planned to keep following him. Ning Shu couldn't chase him away. Besides, it was very normal for mission enforcers to cooperate and do missions together. The mission enforcer asked Ning Shu, "I heard that there's a problem with the judge's body." Ning Shu looked curious. He sighed as if he had never heard of such news. He asked with a confused expression, "There's a problem with the judge's body?" The man's expression was a little indescribable. At that time, many people were watching. You picked her up like a chicken and gnawed on her soul. She actually looked as if she just found out. It was really intoxicating. Although the army quickly came and isolated that position, many people were watching at that time. The person involved actually had such an expression. "Didn't your soul power get gnawed?" the mission enforcer asked. Ning Shu nodded. "Yes, there's a problem with my body." It was undeniable that the Grand Uncle was the organization's stabilizing force. This mission enforcer was obviously testing her. Ning Shu didn't want the organization to fall into chaos while he was in it. If it did, it would definitely affect him. If he could leave the organization safely, he didn't want to run away like a drowning dog. But he's covered in black fog. It's obvious that he's not in a normal state. Ning Shu's expression was very calm. "Is that so?" Being covered in black fog is indeed abnormal. Isn't that cool? Mission Enforcer, was this guy's brain really eaten by the judge? How could he be cool? It was a little hard to communicate with him. How did he have the strength? How did he survive the judge's mouth? Brainless. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 38-35. The Mission Enforcer's expression became a little strange. Obviously, he didn't expect Ning Shu to be such an idiot. His questions were completely irrelevant. He asked a few questions, but none of them had a definite answer. However, he was still very afraid that she could escape from the judge's evil mouth. Whether she was a real retard or a fake retard, she was still alive. Whether it was luck or strength, being alive was the greatest victory. Looking at the state of the judge at that time, he should have been able to swallow her alive. Ning Shu thought for a while and asked the man, "You seem to be very concerned about the judge?" The man glanced at Ning Shu. "Don't you care? In this organization, who doesn't care about the judge?" His words were equivalent to not saying anything. Well, the judge was the center of attention. Whether it was fear, or hatred, they were all staring at the Grand Uncle. This was because the Grand Uncle represented the power of the entire organization, the most powerful and insurmountable power. Even people like Sang Liang and Uncle Chang, and even His Excellency, weren't as eye-catching as the Grand Uncle. When the image of the Grand Uncle collapsed, it meant that the organization had collapsed. The Grand Uncle represented the organization, and the organization represented the Grand Uncle. Ning Shu smiled like a fool. "That's right. Everyone is paying attention to the Grand Uncle." The man asked jokingly, "The Grand Uncle treated you like that. Do you hate him?" "Many people I know hate him." Ning Shu shook his head. "It's good that I'm still alive. I don't dare to think about anything else. I can't help it. I'm very timid. I don't even dare to look at him." The man was speechless. What kind of monster woman was he talking to? It was so tiring. Ning Shu rolled his eyes in his heart. He didn't reveal any information, but they wanted to get information from her. Who did they think he was a fool? Even if Ning Shu was a fool, he should know that these people were asking about the Grand Uncle in a roundabout way. Obviously, someone in the organization used the Grand Uncle as a target and was now aiming at him. Ning Shu didn't show it on his face, but he was gloating in his heart. The Grand Uncle was busy enough. If he said that he hated Senior Uncle, would he be recruited into a mysterious group? Ning Shu actually had a feeling of eagerness in his heart. "Brother, hurry up and invite me." It was just a matter of whether or not he wanted to take him in. Should he show off his strength? If there was truly someone in the organization that rebelled and wanted to replace them, then it could only be said that that person was a fool, and the problem of the Sea of Laws was already out of the question. Furthermore, what was the point of fighting for it? How much effort did it take to maintain such a large organization? Even if such a large organization seemed to have a lot of power, when it came to defending against external enemies, no amount of souls could compare to the void creatures. Some of the void creatures were also grouped together, and the human soul had no chance of winning. Ning Shu couldn't help but think that since the organization had existed for so many years, there must have been outstanding talents and arrogant humans who wanted to replace them, but the organization remained the same. He must have suppressed wave after wave of people, but there must be a lot of people who were rebellious or didn't dare to submit to others. Perhaps it would appear from time to time. This kind of situation could not be stopped. Now that Senior Uncle's situation didn't seem good, he might be able to succeed. Ning Shu's imagination had already spread to the scene of the two sides fighting and blood flowing like a river. Neither of them could get what they wanted from the other. All they got was some vague and uncertain information. However, Ning Shu got an important piece of information. Compared to the greedy wolf star who shouted about freedom and blah blah blah, he was just a flowery talker. In fact, there really was such a group in the dark, a hidden force. The organization definitely knew about it. When you didn't cause trouble, they couldn't be bothered with you. If you were asked to do something, you would do it. That was the organization's purpose, not to be friends with you and have a toast. Letting you enter the organization was to let you do things. Once you did things and completed the mission, it was fine. However, if you caused trouble, sorry, the organization would directly destroy you. Whether it was to get rid of the organization or to replace it, it was a very difficult thing. The man also wanted to ask how Ning Shu escaped from the jaws of death, but it was obvious that he wouldn't say anything even if he asked. It was somewhat irritating, but there were some words that were too blunt and inappropriate. In short, if he wasn't a trustworthy person, there were some words that couldn't be said. If he said it vaguely, the other party might not understand, or he might understand, but he would play dumb. On the contrary, he would reveal too much information on his side. Ning Shu and the man looked at each other and smirked. The man turned his head and said, "I think it's better for us to search separately. We'll find more resources." Ning Shu nodded. "I think so too. It's better to search separately." The man was impatient to follow Ning Shu. If he couldn't get useful information from Ning Shu, there was no point in following him. The figure of the mission enforcer disappeared. The smile on Ning Shu's face disappeared directly. He became cold and curled his lips. Regardless of whether it was a fight between immortals or not, he wouldn't participate in the battle between them. Maybe he would become cannon fodder. He had no choice but to become cannon fodder for the organization. If he took the initiative to become cannon fodder for another small organization, that would be really stupid. It didn't matter whether she hated the grand uncle or not. Could it be that they had a common enemy? Ning Shu clicked her tongue. She worked hard to be strong for freedom and to be lazy. She didn't want to be driven by others to do some inexplicable things. Ning Shu put this matter to the back of his mind and began to search for resources. Without anyone nagging beside him, Ning Shu's search speed increased a lot. When the end notice came, Ning Shu left the world that was about to shatter with a lot of materials. Ning Shu handed over the materials. He was a little envious of the others. Everyone else had been paid, but he didn't. For hundreds of years, he had been working for free, no matter what he did. However, he could enter the Holy Land. This was a good deal. Fodder could enter the cub's home and come into contact with the sacred tree and sacred patterns. This was another kind of power. If he dared to live for hundreds of years in vain, he wouldn't suffer at all. Moreover, if he could really leave the organization in the future, he could also enter the Holy Land. The Holy Land was also a shelter. Ning Shu felt a little hot in his heart. He reached into his heart and took out the peerless martial art that was like a square glass material. It was the size of a Rubik's Cube. Now, the peerless martial art was hot all over. It was so hot that Ning Shu flipped his left hand and right hand. What was going on? Why was it so hot? Was it because there was insufficient energy? Generally, red and hot was a warning, and it was a warning that was more dangerous. Ning Shu quickly returned to the system space and put the peerless martial art on the coffee table. The temperature was so high that it began to melt the coffee table. How to lower the temperature? To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 38-36. Ning Shu felt that the peerless martial art might have caught a cold and had a high fever. What should he do now? Should he get some cold medicine, cool it down physically, put a wet towel on it, or wipe it with alcohol? Ning Shu rubbed his chin and pondered. As the temperature of the peerless martial art got higher and higher, Ning Shu became more and more anxious. What should he do? The peerless martial art was too important. It was related to her strength. If something happened to the peerless martial art, her soul would be gone. She would become an incomplete soul. This referred to the soul, not the power of the soul. Half of the soul arranged the power of the soul was the source of the soul. Ning Shu rubbed his chin and began to tremble. He could not help but say to the peerless martial art, "Ancestor, if you have any requests, just say it. Don't make any noise. I don't understand." The peerless martial art had already stabilized and continued to heat up. Ning Shu was about to be roasted. As for the coffee table, it had already turned into a pool of liquid. How could it explode with such a high temperature when it lacked energy? Heat was also energy. Could it be that the peerless martial art had eaten too much? Ning Shu tried his best to personify the peerless martial art in order to deduce the situation. When a person ate too much, they would either vomit some or poop some. In the end, the energy had to be expelled from the body. Only then would it be more comfortable. If it was stuffed in the body, it would cause problems. Did that mean that he could ignore it? Ning Shu was still a little confused. While the peerless martial art was emitting heat, its body was also gradually shrinking. Previously, it was still imitating its size, but now it was smaller. Could it be that the peerless martial art was tempering itself into steel? After being hammered, a large piece of iron would become smaller and smaller, but its quality would become better and better. Damn, Ning Shu felt that he was about to be comfortable. Why was his heart not so anxious anymore? Perhaps the psychological comforting effect was really quite useful. Ning Shu, who did not know what to do, could only look at the peerless martial art. After all, he had to experience these things himself. Ning Shu did not want to run to others and ask whenever he encountered something. In the future, when he left the organization, there would be no one to answer his questions. He would need people. This kind of habit was fatal. He could not rely on others. Otherwise, when he left, he would be at a loss. As long as the peerless martial arts didn't explode, it wasn't a big deal. The greatest loss was losing half of his soul and the power provided by his peerless martial arts. Ning Shu clutched his chest and asked himself honestly. He didn't feel any trepidation, so there probably wasn't any danger. At the very least, half of his soul power was bound to the peerless martial art. The other half of his soul power did not fluctuate or disappear. Ning Shu steadied his mind and distanced himself from the peerless martial arts. This kind of roasting was truly unbearable. He felt as if his soul was about to melt. Everything in the system space had been roasted, and even the air was distorted. Dan Qing coughed and wanted to say something, but he fell silent. Ning Shu was still waiting for him to speak, but he fell silent. Ning Shu asked, "What do you want to say?" Dan Qing, "No, I just coughed a little." Ning Shu, "I'll be damned if I believe you. I obviously wanted to say something, but I held it back. Don't you feel bad? It's fine if you don't want to say it." Ning Shu stared straight at the peerless martial arts. The peerless martial arts became smaller and smaller, until it was the size of a fingernail. If he looked carefully, he wouldn't be able to see it at all. It couldn't get any smaller. If it was really so small that it couldn't be seen, it wouldn't be easy to find. Gradually, the peerless martial arts stopped emitting heat. When the temperature in the system space dropped, Ning Shu walked over and pulled out something the size of a small diamond from the liquid glass. Ning Shu pinched the small diamond between his thumb and index finger, feeling a little helpless. Such a big book became smaller and smaller, until it was as small as a 1-carat diamond. The speed at which it became beautiful and shiny after slimming down was very enviable. Ning Shu looked at the small diamond and didn't know where to put it. It was too easy to lose it. After thinking about it, he directly put it on his ear. He could touch it with his hand. He reinforced the peerless martial arts again and again to prevent it from being lost. Although he could sense the soul inside the peerless martial arts, if he met someone who knew what it was and picked it up, he could directly erase the soul inside. Just like how she erased the consciousness of the god-beating whip. Ning Shu entered the peerless martial arts. From the outside, the peerless martial arts became smaller, but inside, the world became bigger. The water of the peerless martial arts reached his knees and spread far and wide. Very good, with water, life will be born. Water is the source of life. It seemed that the peerless martial arts was about to form a world of life. He must take good care of the peerless martial arts. After exiting the peerless martial arts, Ning Shu cleaned up the system space. He threw away the books that were burned black. After thinking about it, he also threw away the bookshelves. These things piled up in the system space would only make it more crowded. The bookshelves and books were all deformed or turned black from the high temperature, but the little mouse statue was actually fine. It was still so starry. With its hands on its hips and head raised, it looked very arrogant. It was shining like stars. Ning Shu found a box and placed the little mouse statue inside. Then he took it out. Since the little mouse's resurrection needed energy, should he just throw it into the spirit pool? The water in the spirit pool was spiritual liquid. Maybe it could even increase the vitality and energy of the little mouse. With a plop, Ning Shu threw the statue into the pool. The fish in the pool were startled, and the lotus flowers swayed. Ning Shu glanced at it and turned around to clean up. He paused and thought, that's not right. The little mouse was made of mud, and its ashes were also mud. The water wouldn't melt the little mouse. Ning Shu scooped up the statue and wiped the water stains on it. He looked at it carefully, but it didn't seem to have changed. He put the statue back into the box, closed it, and threw it into the cupboard. He bought a new coffee table. This time, he bought a more expensive one. At least it could resist the high temperature. He cleaned the entire system space inside and out, paying special attention to the nooks and crannies. Dan Qing coughed again as if he had bronchitis. Ning Shu ignored him. Let's see who can't hold it in. After a while, Dan Qing finally spoke. I heard that you're leaving the organization. Ning Shu said indifferently, you're the second person to ask me this. She could imagine that there would probably be more people asking her in the future. She remembered that she didn't say anything about this to Dan Qing. It was probably during the confrontation with the Grand Elder. As a system, Dan Qing naturally knew what happened. Ning Shu said, you're too naive. Don't you know what the organization is like? Do you think it's possible? Dan Qing really didn't know how to answer. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 38-37. She said that she couldn't leave, but the organization seemed to have admitted that she could leave after the transaction. She said that she could leave, but it seemed that no one had ever been able to leave the organization. Therefore, this was a very uncertain matter. It was even an impossible matter. Dan Qing didn't know what to say for a moment. Ning Shu asked, why are you asking this? Dan Qing didn't seem to be very strong. She was sandwiched between the organization and her. She wasn't on the same side as her mission enforcer. Therefore, Ning Shu was really very curious. Dan Qing said, I'm just curious. If you leave, where should I go? Looking at it this way, it was reasonable for Dan Qing to ask if he could leave. Ning Shu said, if, and I'm saying if I can really leave in the future, I will speak up for you. Dan Qing was speechless. There was a suffocating silence. Dan Qing said honestly, you've already left the organization. They won't care about what you say at all. You're leaving a company and still saying that you're interfering in the company's affairs for the benefit of a relative or friend. Who the hell are you? Ning Shu nodded. You're right. I really don't know what to say now. Besides, it's very unlikely that I can leave the organization. In the future, no matter who asked about this matter, Ning Shu only had one answer, which was to deny it 3 times. No, it's impossible. If you ask again, I'm going to get angry. Go ask the organization. Why are you all asking me? Ning Shu took out the wooden token and said to Dan Qing, I'm going to the Holy Land. I'll do the mission when I come back. Dan Qing said a little pitifully, you have to come back quickly. There are really a lot of missions in the inventory. Every time during the review, I feel like I'm a dead person. Ning Shu comforted her. It's okay. Nothing will happen. You'll definitely pass the passing line. Dan Qing said, but every time, I'm trembling in fear. I don't know how many missions there are this time. The number of missions you complete is always fluctuating back and forth. It's very dangerous. Do you understand the feeling of walking on a tightrope? Do you understand my pain and suffering? Every time the review was conducted, it was completely capricious to determine the number of missions. If it was not completed, right now, even if Ning Shu didn't complete the mission, he wouldn't lose much. However, it was different for him. He had to bear the responsibility of watching over and urging the unfavorable situation. If it was possible, Dan Qing really wanted to kneel down in front of Ning Shu. Dad, can we not be so reckless? Hearing the pain in Dan Qing's voice, Ning Shu could not help but reflect. Did she really give Dan Qing so much pressure and pain? Ning Shu said, I will definitely do enough in the future and work hard to clear the inventory. The main thing was that she was really busy with too many things and had too many things to worry about. In the past, he was just an ordinary mission giver. The only thing he did was to complete missions, and complete missions. Under such circumstances, there would definitely be a lot of missions to complete. Ning Shu said to Dan Qing, "How about this? I'll ask the organization to assign fewer missions to me. After all, I still have other things to do." In other aspects, picking up fragments or handling stellar stones will reduce your responsibility. In fact, no matter what she did, she wouldn't get paid. No matter what she did, it would be the same. If she did less, she would do more. The weight would definitely not be reduced. It might even be more. Dan Qing was silent. Ning Shu asked, "Can't you do that?" Dan Qing said, "Thank you. I don't know if it will work." It should work. There were even fewer people picking up fragments and handling stellar stones. As for missions, there were too many mission givers in the entire organization who could do missions. Ning Shu opened the chat system and told the main system about this. The two of them bargained. Ning Shu wanted to reduce the number of missions by half, but Sang Liang could only reduce it by 20%. The bottom line was 20%. As for handling stellar stones and picking up fragments of the world, other than when doing missions, he would be available whenever he was called. If he needed you, he had to appear. Ning Shu was confused. What was the difference? He had always been available whenever he was called. Could it be that the frequency of being available would increase? It was very likely. 20% was 20%. Ning Shu said to Dan Qing, "The number of missions has been reduced by 20%. Dan Qing was speechless. How should she react? "You're awesome. Should I applaud you?" Dan Qing said, "That's good. You can go." Ning Shu took the wooden sign out of the system space and jumped into the void. Then, he found the entrance to the Holy Land according to the instructions on the wooden sign. Entering the Holy Land, a wild and ancient aura hit him in the face. There was no technology at all. Even the houses were piled up with undecorated stones. The divine patterns on the buildings and even on the ground gave this place a sense of mystery. Ning Shu found the cub's shelter and saw a few people standing at the door of the shelter from a distance. One of them was Senior Uncle in a trench coat, and the other was Sang Liang. Opposite them was an old man with gray hair and a long beard. Ning Shu stopped and looked at them from a distance. He couldn't hear what they were saying. After talking for a while, Senior Uncle and Sang Liang left. When the two of them were far away, Ning Shu walked to the door of the cub's shelter. He didn't want to meet Senior Uncle and the others for the time being. If there was a conflict, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. Ning Shu said to the old man with gray hair, "Senior, I'm here to see Efeton." The old man was stooped and supported himself with an undecorated cane. The whole cane was covered with divine patterns, like the patterns of trees. Thinking that he was the spiritual body of the divine tree, Ning Shu was in awe. The old man tilted his head and whispered to Ning Shu, "What did you say?" Ning Shu smiled faintly. What the hell was this reverence? Ning Shu said again, "Senior, I'm looking for Fation." The old man exclaimed and looked at Ning Shu blankly with his turbid eyes. Ning Shu exhaled and shouted, "I'm here to see, God." It was heart-wrenching and deafening. Fation, who was in the cub's shelter, should have heard it. However, there was a barrier between the door and the door, so he shouldn't be able to hear it. The old man nodded. "You're looking for Fation. I'll call him." Then he walked slowly and leisurely, taking a step every half a day. With his hunched back, he could only take one step every half a day. Ning Shu was too embarrassed to rush him. Was he really too old, or was he doing it on purpose? The old man walked into the barrier. After a long time, he came out and said to Ning Shu, "Oh, I forgot. Fation is not in the cub's shelter. He went out." Ning Shu? Suddenly, his temper was gone and he was calm. Ning Shu asked, "Where did Fation go? What did he do?" The old man, "What did you say?" Ning Shu shouted, "Han went out and asked for leave, right? What did he go out for?" I'm so worried. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.